Is we live? We is live. Lord. Okay, here go the regular link. So, what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be having a discussion. Excuse me. We're going to be having a discussion with Chuck Morgan. And we're going to have Jaded Empora up here as well. And why is it not showing me as live right now on YouTube? It is showing me as set reminder. Oh, YouTube is being tricksy, huh? Tricksy. Let's give it a second to catch up around this joint. Oh, goodness. How is everybody this evening? I don't know who's here because I'm trying to text people because YouTube is still showing me as set reminder. And there's Jaded. Chuck is coming. Jaded, you there? If you're talking, your mic is muted.
Yes, my mic was on mute. I was talking.
Hey, we all heard me every once in a while.
I put it on mute so like all kind of, like my children busting in
yeah, I'm like, why is the notification not going out right now?
Say again?
I said, why is the notification not going out right now?
I think I got it.
Oh no, let me read this title to you. She bad, got a bag. Why is she single? Open panel. Lord have mercy. As the YouTube turns.
Whose show is that?
Turns. I'll give you one guess, and the first two don't count.
Oh yeah. It just came right to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like he's doing a remix of all the stuff that the conscious community has already been through.
Mm-hmm.
But I got my own theories, but we're gonna see how that all pans out.
Yeah, I don't want to. Chuck gave me a video to run, but I don't want to run it too soon because.
Yeah, we gotta wait for people to jump in.
Yeah, that part, and it's like YouTube hasn't updated itself and said, "Hey, the video started."
Yeah, I just looked. I got the notification for the
reminder 20 minutes late.
It came 20 minutes late?
Yeah, I just got it talking about the live was in 30 minutes, but it was actually supposed to start at 7:30.
Oh, see, I got it at about 7:12.
Yeah,
and
see,
I
but
know
why?
that because I was like looking at the tablet when I got it. Craig, what's going on, sir? I ate mad food. Now it's back to my weird diet. Peace.
Jaded, cut your volume down just a tad.
Just a little bit. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening?
Doing good. Beautiful Saturday.
All right.
How's that?
We breathe and Jaded. That's beautiful enough for me.
Okay. All right. Let me go.
Okay. I'm trying to wait till some more people come in. I haven't run the video yet because YouTube is being slow on the notification.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
The only reason people showed up is because I hit them on the back end and like, hey, I'm live.
Well, I'm good till about 6 o'clock. It's all right.
Okay, so we goody on that. But yeah.
What's going on, Chuck?
All is well. Can't complain.
That's a beautiful thing, man. I see. You were partaking in one of my favorite pastimes, cutting up pumpkins. Mine don't never come out as good as yours, though.
Oh yeah, that was my first time. So
that was an awesome first try, man. that was like some artistic. That was like very artistic.
Well, you know, I have a history in the field of artwork. You know, that's part of my craft.
Okay, so Chuck,
say again.
If I didn't read it wrong, you recently started a business, right?
Yeah, well, actually, it's my girlfriend's thing, and she just added me in.
Yeah, if I need to know, you doing what?
Well, she has a cleaning service.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a nice cleaning service where she's catering to a lot of the resorts right here in Maui. And it's very lucrative.
Yes.
Starting off. Yeah.
Cleaning businesses, Cleaning business is serious money, especially in the right place.
Oh, without question.
So you are. That's what I'm saying. You are in the right place.
It's not nice to stare at people while they're eating, Crystal. And you know, because every time I look at you, you look away. Don't be greedy.
I like that.
Yo, if I was a more presentable show,
oh, it's a stock photo off of Adobe. I couldn't tell you where it's at. But it's got to be in somebody tropical forest because the tree's too high.
Yeah, that's nice. That's real nice. Yeah, a lot of places around here look like that.
Because you in Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my
melanated book.
My home.
So have you tried to surf yet?
Hold up. Let me turn this down.
Uh-oh. That was like the record skip. I didn't know surfing was a bad word.
I know, right? Record scratched all the way off.
What happened to that? Where's everybody?
We right here.
Yo,
Jaden asked you, did you surf?
Thursday, we went into like a time warp or something because all day yesterday, I swore it was Saturday. And I knew it wasn't, but I swore it was.
Yeah, I'm throwing off myself. I just went back to work yesterday on my day off, so I'm throwing off too. Today is Saturday. It's weird.
Okay, so people finally starting to find us. So background, Chuck. What research are you doing on the Sumerian culture?
Well, it's an ongoing research project. It's been going on for many, many years. I mean, I came across this stuff when I was a kid back in the 70s. I think that it really started to take off when I started getting involved with the Nuwapians, at least when that period that York was dealing with that stuff. A lot of it I had already been familiar with, and going through Zechariah Sitchinson's books and Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, that kind of stuff. So I was already familiar with it. And although they didn't really get, as far as Van Dam is concerned, he never really got into it in depth like Sitchin put an emphasis on. But on the video Chariots of the Gods, he did a small segment in the English version of the documentary where they spoke about, well, they did a scene at the museum in Iraq, and they mentioned the cuneiform characters and the Sumerians, just a little the figurines. And it was really short, but that was enough to really get my interest going, because like I said sometime before, my father and I used to stay up and watch the Late Late Show, and they had a tendency to run that because it came out in 1970. So around 73, Dad and I would, because he was in this army act, I guess that's why I am now. We would watch these documentaries late at night, and Chariots of the Gods was one that stood out because they covered multiple areas from Egypt to India, even down to Easter Island, et cetera, even biblical issues. So that sparked the curiosity. So by the time I came around with the organization, I saw where he was going with it, meaning York, but I wasn't too clear in as far as what the ultimate conclusion was going to be, because he had dipped in and dipped out, and then I noticed he started innovating things that I didn't recall, and stuff that I had studied. So at this point, I finally gotten down to studying the language, and that has opened up a lot of doors in terms of getting a better understanding of the culture and the people. So really that is my focus right now, is trying to get as in depth with the Sumerian language as possible, and with a side of Akkadian, because that played a role in it as well. So I've been taking classes, and it's been coming along, and I'm progressing with it. A lot of the people that I know, we go over different things, try to get terminologies, proper pronunciations, a whole bunch of books and things. So in doing that, it's not because I'm not in Assyriology, and I don't want anybody to come away thinking that. I'm a novelist. This is something that I enjoy. I've always been interested in, and because I noticed that a lot of us were so into ancient Egypt or Kemet, which I applaud, but I didn't want to just stay within that area like everyone else was. So I ventured off and wanted to deal with Mesopotamian history, culture, language, etc. And I've been dealing with it, like I said, for most of my life, as far as from growing up, but not as in depth as now, because I really like it. I think it's really fascinating, especially the cuneiform language, just the illustrations and the different forms of it over the years, different succeeding nations that took over, and they came up with a new form of the writing style, etc. So yeah, that's where I am right now. It's just the research into the language. And one of the things that you'll learn if you ever study the language is that just the basic level, you will understand and you'll be able to critique people that you would suspect as being frauds, who are making commentaries or writing books about the Sumerians and some of the things that they say, and the familiar talking points that we hear all the time. The Sumerians in the tablets. They'll throw out Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh. They'll put out the main stories, but they don't cite a specific line to where you can go and get the source. They'll just throw out a general term. It's in the Enuma Elish, but they won't give you the line, the number, or anything where you can go and verify. Or they'll pull up Nibiru, and of course the infamous Anunnaki. That was one of the big things that York promoted. I think it was around 1992 is when he really started pushing it, and then ultimately he claimed himself to be one of the Anunnaki, as his grandfather being Marduk. Oh, I'm sorry, Anu. Yeah.
He had more daddies and granddaddies and Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger and twins. But
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And I don't know. I think that sometimes when I look back on it, I say, even though you're caught up in the moment, some things should have been just, overt. Even for me, when, like I was saying many times before, when he put out, and one of the videos came out, and the young brother who did the opening would say things like, the master teacher is now revealing who he really is, an extraterrestrial being from the 8th planet, the 19th galaxy, Ilion. Now, I just couldn't really push that, even though I went with the program. So when people would bring it up in class, my response to it, and without having to get in detail, would be just to say that, that's his experience, because he gave us a way out in one of his lectures. Is saying he would have us, okay, so if you didn't experience it, then it may not be real to you, but to the individual who you did experience it, is real to them. So that kind of gave us a way to, if you weren't really with it, you can always pull that, well, that's his experience. I can't really comment on his experience no more than I can comment on your experience. Is it? So that would be that'd be the getaway from having to answer questions.
And they pulling a whole lot of those same tactics today, as we've seen from the ones still floating amongst us.
Exactly. Now I know there were some questions that
jaded.
I didn't know if we were getting started.
We're gonna play the video first. Yeah. I was just waiting at least 10.
Well, yeah, the video was just this little short, kind of like an introduction to.
Yeah, but I didn't want it to start when it was like 3 people in there. Everybody come in and like,
of course.
Can you start it over? So,
yeah.
So we're gonna do the video and then we'll get started on the questions. So here we go.
Do you know that the Sumerians were responsible for the creation of 39 firsts, including the first schools, the first jobs, the first library catalogue, and the first aquarium, just to name a few. Hello and welcome to Ancient History Encyclopedia. My name is Kelly, and today we're going to explore the rich history of the Sumerians, who are a culture from the region of Mesopotamia. Don't forget, the easiest way to support us is by giving this video a like and subscribing to our channel so you don't miss out on any new uploads. And if you enjoyed my t-shirt today, you can actually purchase merch from our Ancient History Encyclopedia shop, which I will link down below. The Sumerians flourished in Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq, between circa 4100 and 1750 BCE, in the region of Sumer, which wasn't a country, but a region made up of a number of walled city-states, each with its own king. The name Sumer means the land of the black-headed people, but they were also known as the land of the civilized kings by the Akkadians, who occupied the northern region of Mesopotamia, while Sumer occupied the south. By 2900 BCE, the Sumerians were firmly established in southern Mesopotamia, but where they originated from is still unknown. Mesopotamia, which from the Greek means land between 2 rivers, is aptly named due to the land being surrounded by the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Although the rivers flooded unpredictably, the silt made the land more fertile, which allowed for a well-developed agricultural system. The Ubaid period, dating between circa 5000 and 4100 BCE, is the first era of this region as defined by modern scholars, and it was this early civilization which led to the development of the Sumerian city-states in the next period, the Uruk period. The Sumerian civilization in Mesopotamia is split into 6 sections, and it was the early dynastic period between 2900 and 2334 BCE which saw the rise of kingship, structured government, bureaucracy, and interstate fighting over water and land rights. Multiple kings tried and failed to become the sole ruler over the Sumerian city-states, including Enem-Baragesi of Kish, who in around 2700 BCE led the Sumerians to victory against Elam in the first war ever recorded. However, none of these kings fully controlled all of the Sumerian city-states until Sargon of Akkad, also known as Sargon the Great, came to power. Sargon reigned between 2334 and 2278 BCE and made Sumer the core of his multinational empire. He was successful because he placed trusted officials in powerful positions in each city, including his daughter, Enheduanna, who became the high priestess of the goddess Inanna at Ur. The Akkadian Empire, founded by Sargon the Great, was invaded by the people known as the Gutians, and they held the region until they were driven out in around 2047 BCE by Ur-Nammu and his son Shulgi of Ur, who were responsible for the so-called Sumerian Renaissance. This period saw the resurgence of Sumerian culture after the Akkadian and Gutian conquests. One of the most important innovations by the Sumerians was writing. The writing system of the Sumerians is known as cuneiform and is the oldest written language, which dates to around 3500 BCE. The development of writing was to facilitate long-distance communication and trade, and was the beginning of documented history. The alphabetic script of cuneiform was used all throughout Mesopotamia by different cultures, but in their own languages, such as the Assyrians, the Elamites, the Akkadians, and the Babylonians. Great works of literature which survive to us, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh and Enheduanna's hymns to Inanna, were composed in the region of Sumer in the cuneiform script. The Sumerians developed the first schools and jobs. They developed the first cosmology, which grapples with the understanding of how the cosmos and the universe might be explained, and the first cosmogony, which is the origins of the universe and how everything came into existence. They also essentially developed the concept of time by dividing day and night into 12-hour periods, each hour into 60 minutes, and each minute into 60 seconds. From the Sumerian city of Ur, some of the oldest wheeled vehicles in history were discovered. Although the oldest wheel in the world was discovered in Central Asia, the 2 four-wheeled vehicles found at Ur give the Sumerians credit for the invention of the wheel. The Sumerians also hold the honor of the creation of the city, with the world's oldest city arguably being the Sumerian city of Uruk. At the heart of each Sumerian city would be a temple complex that was marked by the Great Ziggurat, which was a multi-leveled monumental structure which proliferated throughout Mesopotamia. The archaeology of Sumer establishes Uruk as the oldest city, but the Sumerians believed that Eridu was the first city in the world, presided over by Enki, the god of water and wisdom. Eridu was seen as the home of the gods and the birthplace of the rules governing civilization, and in Mesopotamian mythology, it was comparable to the biblical Garden of Eden. Much like the Egyptians, religion was incorporated into every aspect of life and informed the government and social structures. The Sumerians believed that the individual's goal in life was to work with the gods, who had formed the world out of chaos, to make sure that the chaos didn't return. Humans were considered co-workers to the gods and were rewarded depending on how they performed their duties in accordance to the gods' will. The Sumerian city-states were governed by a Lugal, which literally means big man, and is understood as a king. The Lugal was in charge of overseeing the cultivation of the land, waging wars, maintaining order, and making sure the will of the gods were implemented and understood in daily life. The Lugal could be overthrown if they began to lose battles, if the crops died, or any other upset which suggested that they were no longer favoured by the gods. The Sumerian civilization began to decline with the reign of the Babylonian king Hammurabi, who incorporated Sumer into his larger Babylonian empire. Hammurabi is famous for creating one of the world's first law codes, although it was preceded by the Code of Ur-Nammu of Sumer, which he may have drawn from. Hammurabi also elevated Marduk as supreme god over the Sumerian pantheon, and after his other reforms, both women's rights and the great Sumerian cities began to decline, since male deities and Babylonian culture were elevated. Finally, in 1750 BCE, the Sumerian civilization collapsed after the invasion of the Elamites, which caused widespread cultural and social change. The Sumerians were unknown in the modern age until the mid-19th century, when European and American institutions funded archaeological expeditions to the region to find physical evidence which corroborated biblical narratives. What they found instead was the Sumerian civilization, whose stories of the Great Flood and the fall of man and other tales predated similar biblical stories by millennia. The discovery of the Sumerian culture revolutionized the understanding of the origins of the Bible, as well as that of world history. What similarities do you see between the Sumerians and your own culture? Let us know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any new uploads. This video was brought to you by Ancient History Encyclopedia. For more great articles and interactive content, head to our website via the link below. Ancient History Encyclopedia is a not-for-profit organisation. If you'd like to support our work, hit the link in the top corner of the screen or via the support link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Okie dokie.
All right.
Okay. That was very informative.
Yeah, well, that was just something to kind of break the ice.
Yeah, definitely. That kind of gives an overview of the entire culture and gives people a reference point. That was a dope video.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, like, I think one of the things that York kind of rested on when he talked about Sumerian, most of the context in which I've heard it is people stating that the Sumerians were black people or were African.
Right.
Is there any truth to that in your study?
Well, yeah. Let me put it to you this way. I'm seeing now there's like this pattern that a lot of us are having a tendency to kind of take over other people's cultures and then lay claim to it, and using superficial storylines as a justification for it. I'm seeing different groups. I watched the video last night. One individual was going on, and they're linking Hebrew or Israelite teachings or culture and claiming that they are an outgrowth of the Sumerian people. And because of that, by claiming to be Hebrews or Jewish people or people of the Bible, then by default, they're in some way related to the Sumerians. So in regards to whether or not they were Black, African, Negroid, I have seen absolutely no evidence whatsoever to support such an idea. And I have watched, I have listened to the comparative storylines. I have looked into the pseudoscience of simple lookership. You know, I haven't seen anything to support that. And then even getting down to the name, what they refer to themselves, Sangia, that into itself, if someone says black-headed, right? If you're a blackhead, because I think what the problem that I have found is that people are today using a racial epithet or a racial association, today's definition, and trying to apply a term that may have been used in the past to today. So if I say they are a black-headed people, are they making reference to a racial scheme? Are they talking about the person's hair? So I'm seeing that anything that is, whenever the term black is being used, automatically that's talking about us. And I just don't, I can't vibe. I don't see any proof for that.
But let me ask you this, Chuck.
Yeah.
Culturally, people weren't segregated by skin tone back then. Back in the time of the Sumerians. Ooh. They wouldn't technically be
I think at that time most people looked similar.
Black and white and all of that.
I think at the time of the Sumerians, most people would have looked similar in that region at least. So they wouldn't.
Here's the thing, and here's the thing, and I think that I share your point, and I think that if you remember what she indicated, she said that the Sumerian. Now here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. If you eliminate the name Sumerian or Shumeru, which is a term that the Akkadians gave them.
Well, any of them really.
No, specifically a people that came into southern Iraq in the marsh area and coincided with another group of people who were already there, known as Uruk, and then prior to that, Ubaids. The Sumerians, as they're called, Sangiga, they developed a form of writing. Okay. This form of writing, of course, we all came to know as cuneiform later on as being a wedge type of writing system. These people came from somewhere, and that is part of the long ongoing debate called the Sumerian Problem in academia. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. Chuck, you already know you got
I guess it's rhetorical.
Yeah, like I've heard a lot of theories on the origins of various people in that region.
Yeah. Give me some of them.
Have you ever heard of Raj Vidam?
Is that the Indian fellow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he talks about I believe he says the Gutians originated in India. And they were tied into, and that goes into his whole debunking of the Aryan myth.
Yeah, I got into a little discussion with some of the guys that hold that viewpoint, and how the Gutians were regarded by the Akkadians as well as the Sumerians under Gudea. They refer to them as a savage beast-like people who lived up in the mountains, the Zagros Mountains.
Right.
And they were warlike people. And as a matter of fact, when they when they conquered the Akkadians, they nearly destroyed Sumer and Mesopotamia as a whole. And while all that was taking place, further down in the south, in the Lagash area, there were ruling parties that didn't get taken over or weren't conquered by the Gutians. And that was what spearheaded what was later called the Sumerian Renaissance period, that some people mistakenly assumed that all of a sudden some white people took over, and all the images and iconography you find in ancient Sumer, where they look, I guess you could say, European-like, they came out of that era. Part of that is true because under Gudea, the building projects took place. A a lot of the stories and what's the word? Best word for it? A lot of the
Mythology.
literature began to flourish. Yeah, and that's something else that needs to be cleared up. All of those types of things. So I haven't even been on here so long. I forgot. Okay, let me get this thing. Hold up. I think
Down
that
at
I'm
the
trying
bottom,
to.
the one that looked like like the computer with the arrow on it.
Yeah, the third button from the left.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
if it's a browser page, you go to share screen or share window, web page, Chrome tab. Yeah, that's what it is, Chrome tab.
Oh, hold on. I'm so sorry. Like I said,
Ain't no problem.
There it is. Share screen. I'm sorry. I was on the wrong page.
You already know the model. You've been over there doing too much, duking it out.
Yeah. All right. Can you see?
Not yet.
I'm pulling it up now.
Okay.
Okay.
This is a PowerPoint that I had done sometime last year on the Dagger Sword show, and it was designed not to attack anyone because some individuals got very upset, and I kind of lost a friendship with one individual because of what this PowerPoint did. It's about 100 some slides here, but I'm not going to go through it. It's up on the web on my Facebook page. Not Facebook. I'm sorry. It's on the YouTube channel, and you can see it. But it gets into all of these arguments, literally. If we can walk down. Say like, okay, give me an example. All right, of course you get the opening in an area in southern Iraq existed the world's most enigmatic societies, the Sumerians, blah, blah, blah. It was the Sumerians who developed and probably invented the cuneiform system of writing, which was adopted by nearly all the peoples of Near East, and without which the cultural progress of Western Asia would have been largely impossible. The Sumerians developed religious and spiritual concepts together with a remarkably well-integrated pantheon, which influenced profoundly all the peoples of the Near East, including the Hebrews and the Greeks. The Sumerians produced a vast and highly developed literature, largely poetic in character, consisting of epics and hymns, myths, Lamentations, Proverbs, and words of wisdom. These compositions are inscribed in cuneiform script on clay tablets, which date largely to approximately 2000 BC. Now, this is from Samuel Kramer. Of course, Sumerian myths, the Sumerian mythology, a study of spiritual and literary achievements in the 3rd millennium BC. As we progress, because I consulted a number of Assyriologists, some Sumerologists, and of course the students who study this stuff, they gave me a number of places where I can get some information out of the book. It took about a year or so to even put this thing together because I wanted to have enough sources to be able to give the reader or the viewer a sense of balance where they can decide for themselves. I was already convinced, but I wanted to, and I listened to a number of different arguments. So, of course, we went into that area and say, okay, I'm going to hear their position and why they say this or that. And it's just a lot of the arguments wasn't sound. You probably have already read this, so I guess it's not even necessary. So the Ubaids would be right down in this little area here. At some point, the people who refer to themselves as Sanginga is a funny word because of the way that is pronounced. Because people say it's Sagiga or something like that, but there's a specific form in how these things are supposed to be, as far as how it's taught in academia. So the term is referred to as black head. And that's where the controversy comes in, because some speculate, why are they talking about, why they just focus on one part of the body? And why not even use a racial scheme altogether? And we don't find any evidence that supports that as far as being a racial issue. And certainly we don't find African imagery in the iconography of any of the periods in Uruk or Sumer or during the Ubaid periods. So in a book called The Sumerian Problem by Tom B. Jones, he goes and addresses, or he presents to the reader a number of the different arguments that has been going back and forth over the years as to who the Sumerian people were. It wasn't necessarily about race. That wasn't even an issue. It was more or less about who were they. Were they the people from the Indus Valley? Were they a people from beyond, going further towards Europe? Were they just a mysterious group of people that popped up? You know, how some people want to say, they just, because I think that a lot of people are not even familiar with the fact that there were people, a society already existing in the area of what's called Sumer before the Sumerians came. And that kind of eliminates the arguments that the Anunnaki created the Sumerians and placed them down there into the land between the two rivers. So that's when you started really delving into it. So in a book called The Lives of Sumerian Sculpture and Archaeology of the Early Dynastic Temples, visual evidence of the Sumerians was almost completely unknown until 1877, when the site of Tello began to yield numerous statues of Gudea, the ruler of Lagash. Shortly thereafter, the Sumerians were featured in an ethnographic exhibition celebrating the progress of human labor at the 1889 Universal Exposition in Paris. I had a slide of that, but I think I had removed that one. Different people, different authors, like John A. Halloran, I consulted him on a few things because he has a pretty engaging website and a webpage where he kind of does answer questions, and so, you know, back and forth we would go over different things. So he's really accessible. So he presents various ideas of how, or what he suspects, because a lot of people have this thing where because of the Sumerian language, because it's regarded as a language isolate, they're finding it difficult to try to attach any specific group to them in their language family. But that didn't stop some individuals from trying to claim that, you know, for whatever reason, it's an African language, it's a European language, it's an Indian language, you know, it's everybody's got their own little thing. So I don't think that Sumerian argument is going to ever end. So what I wanted to do was look at some of the DNA evidence that had been presented in various journals. Samuel Kramer had a conclusion regarding it, and the people of the marsh coming from Iran. And Kramer's hypothesis may now have some validity based on the following article from the National Center of Biotechnology and Information. And this was pretty good because a lot of us use this when we're trying to really get down to a lot of the DNA and evidence to back up a lot of what we say. I don't think I have to necessarily read it, but the prevalent Middle Eastern ancestry of the modern population in the marshes of southern Iraq implies that if the marsh Arabs are descendants of the ancient Sumerians, also the Sumerians were most likely indigenous and not of Indian or South Asian ancestry. This is part of an argument that was being presented. In the search for the genetic footprint of the Sumerians, a survey of Y chromosomes, mitochondrial DNA, variations in the Marsh Arabs of Iraq, where they took the DNA of the Y chromosomes and then they, of course, examined them, and they came up with certain, you know, I guess you could say convincing arguments in regards to at least the people, the males, having at least those who lived in that marsh area. Now, to be fair, I wanted to point out that in this publication that a Syriologist, let me look at an English version of it, he made the point that there's never been any actual DNA extracted from any bones of Sumerians. So what they are dealing with is just the people who are considered the oldest in the region that may have some genetic links to those people of the past. But to have a full skeletal remains of a Sumerian, that's not something that they had. And so that was one of the things, and that kind of makes it difficult, and it pushes us back into this back and forth argument as to who the Sumerians were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but of course you have other little indicators. Now, one of the things that thing pointed out was in the study of DNA samples collected from various groups, African haplogroups were also analyzed, and the following are their conclusions. African haplogroups are of Northeast and Sub-Saharan African origin and represent minor components in both groups. Northeast African contributions is mainly represented by HDM1, which accounts for 2.8% of Marsh Arabs and 1.2% of the Iraqi sample. Later displaying also 0.0, on and on and on and on. You can see it here. Out of the 12 African sub-haplogroups identified in the survey, 6 in the marshes and 7 in the control sample, only one, L2A1, was shared between 2 Iraqi groups. Now, of course, you can go to this and get more information on. You can see the whole article. If we have to, we can pull it up and go through it ourselves. One of the things that some brothers that I know, when we discussed this, one of the things that they really, couldn't have a firm answer for was the familiar unibrow, which is prevalent throughout Sumerian iconography of their rulers, aristocracy, gods. And it is this here, of course. And you'll find that throughout. And you can't dismiss it because that is not a domineering African feature.
That's
and we
like
don't
the
find it.
unibrow.
Huh?
I said that is like the ultimate unibrow, the way they got it. They emphasizing it though.
Exactly. And because
like
it's
the Frida brow.
Yeah. In Tajikistan and how in different places in the Middle East, that is considered a staple of beauty. Where the unibrow reigns in the world. This was a pretty good article, huh?
I didn't say anything.
Okay. So Tajikistan is not the only Central Asian country where the unibrow reigns supreme, a symbol of feminine beauty and purity. And it's not as if every Tajik woman has it. The unibrow is an exception and still found more commonly in places outside the capital. We often don't realize how strongly hair features are stratified across continents. For instance, straight hair is virtually non-existent in sub-Saharan Africa, whereas we only really see variation in hair color in the West Eurasia. We identified the gene PAX3 as the monobrow gene. It has previously been shown to control where in the face nasion is located, the point at the middle of the two eyebrows. So it is reasonable to see it as associated with the monobrow too, which is a hair covering that part. Rare mutations of PAX3 have been shown to cause Wardenburg syndrome type 1. 85% of patients with this condition have the monobrow. Of course, you can always pull that article up. It's still available. But this is something that cannot be dismissed. Even Samuel Kramer had pointed that out, and how in all the different things, Kramer believes that the Sumerian, this is an article from, I think it was New York Times, New York Times, a book review, and it was going over that interesting point. Samuel Kramer, he does not believe that the Sumerians who appeared in southern Iraq 5,000 years ago were physiologically very different from today's men and women. From the evidence of their sculpture, they looked out on the world much as Mr. Kramer does, with large eyes, prominent eyebrows, and a certain urbanity. Blah, blah, blah. The point is, I pointed out here was the reference again to the unibrow. Again, it can't be dismissed, and it warrants further investigation. So if we were to go through Gudea, one of his sons, of course, you see the more prominent unibrow. And of course, the modern, we find this all over the Arab world, of course. You see Waraka, one of the rulers in Sumer, and another Tajikistan woman. Ninala, the daughter of the Sumerian king Urbau, the prominent unibrow. A Nan tomb of Lagash, and of course Rudolf Hess, the serial killer under the Nazis, the unibrow. We cannot ignore it. So my question is clear. How do you account for this specific feature? And they even talked about it. And of course, one of the rare depictions of Sargon of Akkad, he has what appears to be a unibrow, at least as far as his bust. And you find it in various other forms as well. The king of Uruk, which is Lugal, Kish Alsi. He has it as well. And then, as a weird irony, one individual who put out a publication called Black Sumer, he actually said that this was a Negro. And that led. I'm sorry?
So I don't know how he did that, but a lot of times the nose gets removed, and then they start theorizing on how the nose got removed and what the nose might have looked like to try to make proof.
Exactly.
But you're right. The eyebrows are very distinctive. That's not something that appears in Africa that much.
And I went through a number of, especially in some of the language groups that some individuals had claimed that the Sumerians were descended upward. I don't know, as far as they're concerned, they actually came from Uganda and various other places, and then set up Sumer. But like I said, there's no visual documentation to back that up. Now, to be fair, the blue eye that we see, this has called this. Now, I have gotten into arguments, of course, with white supremacist groups in some of their little chat groups. I like to go in and mess with them, and because they push the narrative that the Sumerians were a white people. I mean, white people, not anything mixed or purely Aryan.
All the way out in the middle of the Mojave, right?
and they use these images to support it. Evidence would indicate, or let me look at the questions. Were blue eyes symbolic? The evidence would indicate yes. However, it shouldn't be mistaken as racial characteristics. There are several artifacts which dates to the early Bronze period. Here we see an example with an inlay of shells and lapis lazuli set in shale. Now, this is a Anatun of Lagash. And if you look in, you see the big blue eyes, the lapis, and then his nipples are blue. Now, we know that people don't have blue nipples. So there, it had to be something else. It had to have some other type of meaning as to why they would have.
Might have been the only color dye they could make.
Huh?
Now that guy
might have been the only color dye they could make, and they was proud of it. Put it on his eyes. Put it on his nipples.
We don't know the reason on that movie. It's like, yo, yeah, like on the Wu-Tang album, he's like, yo, sir, I know what I'm about to do. I'm about to get a statue, and I'm about to get the blue nipples, son. It's gonna be like marble cake.
I hear you. So the term Iki is what they use to represent.
Hold on, before you continue, because I meant to say something earlier, but I was just so like, what? Inky, the water god.
Oh, did I stop there?
Inky and the case of the kidney water. I cannot.
Oh, I hear you. Okay.
That's as far as I'm gonna go with that. But yeah, y'all know where I'm going. Y'all know
interesting where people pick their names.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I hadn't even looked at it that way.
Inky in the case of the kidney water. But yes.
That's very interesting. That's a pretty unique observation.
I had heard the name around, but when I heard it connected with water god, I was like, now wait a minute. Now you're doing too much. You're doing entirely too much, player.
It was a sea moss water god.
But always remember, if it's glowing, shoot it.
Gotta shoot it. Biggest gun you got. But now
go ahead.
Now I'm trying to think about some other arguments that they use to try to tie. So we've gone through the blackhead thing and we've debunked that. We've gone into DNA, and I pretty much feel like once we get into DNA and we have no DNA proof of any evidence of a presence, then it becomes very hard to continue to say certain things. But now we look at the statues, the last slide that we looked at, that guy clearly looks Arab.
Hold on a second. Okay. Are we there?
Not yet.
Am I malfunctioning?
Nope.
No. You just it's just your avatar.
Oh, I just did the stream.
Trip gotta do the thing. Trip gotta hit.
That's probably why I went back down. I had to put it back
up. There you go.
Yeah, it's coming. There it goes. The little blue-eyed Persian man.
All right, so the dark eyeliner was called Shimbizida or kohl, which you still see Arabs using today. If you see the way it's pronounced, you see that SEMBI, that little hook over top. Yeah, it's pronounced. It's that's used to represent a SH sound. So Shimbi, yeah. And I'll get that from the electronic Pennsylvania Sumerian Dictionary. and this statue here of Banda, the overseer, 2400 BC, at the Sumerian collection at the Temple of Ishtar in the Lavur Museum. Look at, I mean, I'm not, listen, I'm just saying, this is how they depicted themselves.
I mean, he'd be quite beige.
Mm-hmm.
If he was African, he'd be quite a beige man. He'd be a beige-headed man.
Caucasian. I'ma just say that and leave it. Not Caucasian.
Well, I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can through it, but I'm just gonna point a couple of things out. One is the brilliant blue eyes were largely symbolic, and being that the lapis lazuli was viewed as one of the most precious stones that represented the heavens, skies. At times, it was used to decorate the eyes, showing brilliance, shine, and the wearer was usually comparable to the Anuna, or the gods. And that is part and parcel to why you saw that.
Symbol.
Huh?
It was a status symbol.
Symbol of wisdom.
Yes, among the aristocracy of Sumer. Because remember, these people in their legends, they identify themselves as being, as the Akkadians refer to them as the civilized people. You see?
It seems like the lapis lazuli was a symbol of wisdom.
I believe so.
Insight.
Because you find it. Because you find it on all of those wisdom texts. You'll find it as part of the iconography of some of the depictions of Enki, god of wisdom. In the Sumerian epic Enki and Ninmah, we read the following. Enki looked at the who turned back the light, the man with constantly opened eyes. The reason I pointed that out is because it fits right into, and this is part of their legend, because they held these myths as being sacred. And so their depictions based on some of these narratives is part of why they developed these legendary images as having these, well, let me show you, as having figurines that stare off into the skies, the nothingness. Let me see if I can, like this one.
It's like them saying they're woke.
Huh?
It's like them telling the rest of the people that they're woke. Like I'm more aware than the average person.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah, just like you were saying that how they regarded the lapis and the depictions as being representatives of the heavenly skies. You see, because a lot of the different rulers of Sumer took on Sumerian name. I mean, they took on the names of deities. Or in Gudea's case, he held Ningersu as being his sacred deity. In fact, a lot of the writings pertaining to the Anunnaki, as it's called, the Nuna, come out of the writings of under Gudea. It was during that period that we find the earliest writing of Nuna. And then later on, from the Akkadian to the Babylonians, they started having different versions where you start bringing in the Igigi, the Watchers and all this other stuff. Right. So, well, this goes into the whole issue pertaining to what is blue eyes and so on and so forth. What's this one? DNA analysis showed that skeletons preserved in the cave were genetically distinct from people who historically lived in that region, and some of the genetic differences match those of people who lived in the neighboring Anatolia and the Zagros Mountains, which are now part of Turkey and Iran, the study found. Blue-eyed immigrants transformed ancient Israel, 6,500, on and on and on. I thought that this was significant because, again, we go back to who the Gutian people were.
Mhm.
And there are battles that the Sumerians documented in regards to them. You can look at the victory stele of Utu Hingao, when it talks about them. And then just going over the blue-eyed mutation. This is I thought it was ironic because this is at the museum. What's that museum called in New York? It's called the Metropolitan Museum. This statue is there, and you clearly see the blue eyes. But I mean, it's a. I'm trying to use a better word without being dismissive. People who are Europeans using this as an argument to say that they were quote unquote white based on the blue eyes is not accurate.
I mean, it's equivalent to the blackhead argument.
Exactly. Exactly. Same thing. But when you probe deeper into why they did these types of things, then the argument falls flat. So, we just went into what makes blue eyes, and then black folk with blue eyes, all this kind of stuff. So I thought that that was relative, and it was necessary to put in the article, in the PowerPoint. This Zagin is what they refer to lapis lazuli as Zagin. This na here is determinative, so it's not pronounced. It's just letting you know that is a specific type of a stone. Okay. What is it? Yeah, the term na Sumerian, what we call lapis lazuli, is equated to the Akkadian new. Well, I don't even have to go into all this. I think that we kind of touched on that. Let me see if this. One Assyriologist pointed out that the Mesopotamians may have believed that the tablet was a replica of a sacred star chart. They may have also believed that the heavens were made of lapis lazuli, as implied by CAR 307 and AO 8196, thus explaining the color of the blue sky above. Several texts refer to an Zagin or blue heavens, including the incantations to Utu and the hymn of Rim Sin. So they talk about the beauty of the skies, and it is just their relationship. Now you got not necessarily the people, but just those aristocrats, their relations to the sky, just like people say they're blue bloods. If you want to put it that, it's simplified like that. Now this is.
My bad. I don't know why this keeps going.
This is the standard of chest that was uncovered. Let's see. And this is interesting because this is another. Now this covers war, it covers peace and trade. Now this, again, is how they depicted themselves.
Quite pale.
Well, I ain't gonna say unfortunately, but I guess I can say unfortunately for certain people with their arguments. Now, what they'll say is that, well, these were the people that came during the Renaissance. These are the people that came after all the black people were gone.
But they say that about every civilization.
Exactly, and that's what I heard last night. I was watching the sister that was going on and on with this thing, and the brother that was just pumping her up with, gassing her up with this stuff. It was really funny.
Chuck, I just think it starts with an immature approach to history, where people are separating various ancient cultures and playing marksman, like one-upsmanship with these different. Well, they discovered this, and well, we got this.
And then they won't admit when they wrong.
Yeah.
Well, once you attach your emotions onto something, and then folks are looking for an identity, and they're looking for a mark of self-esteem, and then they're using history to justify their need for this.
Cherry picking.
Yeah.
Confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And it's kind of it's kind of insulting to the average person's intelligence, because they're coming with these arguments, and then you can clearly say, well, wait a minute. If you know the right questions to ask, you'll say, okay, let me ask you something about it. What's with this scene here? Okay. Now, if you're going to say that the original peoples of Sumer were black people, Africans, what have you. If you want to say we're all Africans, of course, okay. But by the time we get around to this, the phenotype is somewhat different. How they depicted themselves in these art forms, I just don't see how they can come with that argument. Now, that's not to say that there may have been African people there, or we cannot just take a people who may have been dark to just automatically assume that they were African. Because we do know that the people of the Indus Valley did trade with Sumerians. This is well documented. And we see them. We see how they're depicted. Very similar.
Differently. Right.
Very similar, though. Maybe not with the unibrow, but we do see similarities.
Okay.
But as far as an African people, I have yet to see even a trader from another land in Africa trading with someone in the marsh, or even one of the cities, Uruk or Eridu.
Now, haven't they also found evidence of the Indus Valley trading with Egypt, as well as Egypt?
I have seen that. Yes. Yes.
Now, two things. Now, did Egypt now there were communications between various pharaohs and different city states in Sumer, because there was conversations about sending women and things like that. I know about that.
Yeah, I remember, as far from by the time this is what I've uncovered now. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what I have seen, a lot of those correspondences were after the Sumerian people were long gone or conquered.
So with Babylonians, etc. Yeah, okay, that could be right. That could
I
be
forget.
right.
There's a number of, matter of fact, even Uncle Anton had some correspondences with Mesopotamian rulers. I've seen it. I mean, listen. There's one Facebook group where they have a series of these conversations back and forth in letters or clay tablet writings back and forth. And even have words for, huh?
A lot of them are funny because it's almost like you could
so you've
envision
seen
them being correspondences today.
Yeah, you've seen them. Yeah. For you to say that, I know you must have seen a couple of them, because some of them are kind of funny. Yep. So again, it's going back to this point of how they depicted themselves. On an example of the early Sumerians, how they depicted themselves can be found in the British Museum, exhibition, blah, blah, blah. And it's the Blau monuments, dated back to 3100 BC. I thought this was interesting. Somebody can try to pull the argument and say, see, look at that. That looks like an obelisk.
Now, I just want to add this, right?
Yeah.
Lapis lazuli is hard. And the carving etching like that into lapis lazuli is not an easy task, even with modern tools.
Yeah.
Just as somebody who works with different stones, and that is very
no doubt.
detailed. Yeah.
And they were able to perfect it, to come up with some of the beautiful images or statues that are associated with that stone.
They had nothing but time back then. Nothing but time.
Yeah.
They had time and feather skirts.
Yes. Oh, here's
Like,
interesting thing.
look, they would spend half a year making a dress. They would plan things years in advance. Oh, this ball is gonna be in 2 years, so I need to get my dress ready now.
Mhm.
You know, this
And
is
then
stuff they had to think ahead about because they knew that they couldn't get it done. They didn't have modern conveniences. So they
and
had master craftsmen like no other.
yeah,
We don't
you had
Yeah.
understand
people
because
that
we
just
don't have
worked on
that.
that all day long, and that's
Yeah.
all they did for their whole life.
Yeah.
So it's like they started this stuff when they were children, like
Mhm.
5 and 6 years old.
They
Mhm.
had the first
As
public
well as,
schools. They
and
had
just
public
like the
schools.
scribe, yeah, these scribes, they were taught as children, and they had to go through years and years and years of study of this
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah.
They also have
I,
correspondences with students that are funny too. They be battling each other.
yeah. I think I saw something like that. Yeah.
Because they all had something to prove.
Yes, that's not the whole thing.
Well, no,
Yeah.
it was a
It's
status
when you
symbol.
get
You
a bunch of
know,
when you get a
if you
bunch of
were
people
with
together.
one master, you had to prove yourself for your because you didn't want to shame your quote unquote master, or your mentor, or whatever, because that
Hmm.
was your standing in society.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then in some
Exactly.
of the schools, you had various cultures. You know what I'm saying? You had
Hmm.
students coming from abroad learning there and things like that. So there was
Hmm.
also competition in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is because it's a lot of this stuff is foreign to a lot of us. So now different people are taking it upon themselves to kind of try to link themselves into it or their particular group. And now I'm starting to see, I'm beginning now to see that kind of, um, what's the word, hijacking of a group like they did with other groups. I'm starting to see that now with the whole Sumerian thing,
Hmm.
and their arguments is just like it's so weak. I mean, really weak arguments. You know, because I mean, this stuff is really, really complicated. It's a complicated study. The language is complicated. You can see a word, and you'll have sometimes 5 to 10 different meanings, but it's the same sign.
I
Yeah, they
just want to
You
use
say
know,
this
one
though, Chuck,
symbol
right?
for.
say again.
For
Go ahead,
anybody
Jay.
that's in the clouds,
Mhm.
if you want to practice the ancient Sumerian religion, that's fine for you. But you don't have to make all black people Sumerian to do that.
I know.
That's the same thing with the Hebrews and Moors and all this other kind of
Hmm.
stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we can accept that when the slave trade went down, it was a lot
Mhm.
of different people who were taken, and then those various cultures kind of just merged into one, and then kind of merged in with the American society as a whole. So it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
So,
And
you don't
this
want
is
to
a boring topic.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that this is fascinating. I mean, to me, I find a lot of this fascinating. I find the ancient cultures fascinating.
Hmm.
I don't have the urge to want to be a Sumerian, but
Yeah.
learning about Sumeria is
Hmm.
fascinating. Learning about the way that Sumeria has impacted modern society is
Hmm.
fascinating. But
Hmm.
some people, when they learn things, it's harder to learn it unless you can put yourself in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And for them, you have to know when to draw yourself back.
Yep.
So, if you find
Yep.
yourself wanting to wear wool skirts or feather skirts or something like that, you know,
The colony case. That flea. Yeah, hopefully you know what? I did see they had and one of those fashion weeks, then they broke out. Somebody came out wearing one, wearing the colony
mm,
case. Yeah, that fleece skirt.
I
Yep,
think I
sure
might have
did.
saw that. I think I
Hmm.
might have seen that. But
Yeah. So, I like I said, for me, I just find it all interesting, because every day I go into it, I'm learning something new. I just find it fascinating. I'm not trying to be a Sumerian. I don't want to be one. It's just like watch. It's like entertainment to me.
Right.
It's a fascinating topic. I like the way the language is structured. I like the cuneiform, the different fonts of it, and that's about it. You know, I mean, I
Now
like
I
the
got a
little
question
dude,
for you, Chuck.
Judea. Yeah, huh?
In reference to the cuneiform, right?
Yeah.
When I looked at it, I always saw a similarity between cuneiform and Chinese characters and Japanese characters. Have you ever come across any connection between the Sumerians and the Far East?
I haven't, other than the fact that both of them are wedge scripts,
Hmm.
and both are classified as
JT
cuneiform.
doing the most
So it's
makes me.
just kind of just something that people just could come up with coincidentally.
Not necessarily, because there is a book that was written where a Japanese author and a Syriologist he has a hypothesis that the Sumerians were in some way related to the ancient Asians.
Mm.
Everybody's taking a piece of
Mm-hmm.
it.
That's what happens when you hot. Everybody wants to lay claim on you.
Yeah. So I forget the name of the book. I put it in one of these articles. Yeah, let me see. Let me try this one.
And the wind has kind of been taken out of Egypt's sails a little bit over the years, because it used to be um, a lot of the Afrocentric scholars would be focused on Egypt and laying claim to Egypt.
Yeah.
And now that a lot of the ideas the idea of Egyptian first or exceptionalism with Egypt have kind of dissipated. When you think about um, you know, they would have pharaohs would look a certain way, but then they gonna come to find out that the pharaoh was actually fat in real life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
You
You're
would
right.
find their writing system that was supposed to be this exceptional writing, sacred writing system was the common language to their neighbors to the south. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yes.
The wars that they said they won, they didn't really win like that. So the wind is kind of been taken out of the sails, and then uh, there's a need to compete with other cultures, and in that they're trying to retroactively compete in ancient times. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And the whole pursuit kind of leads us in a place where we're not producing scholars that are producing useful work. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
like the way that you're approaching Sumerian culture as just someone who was observing it and you're not trying to lay claim on it, then that becomes a reference point to someone else who studies Sumerian. And that becomes a useful piece of work for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
As opposed to when you create these theories like York did, or all this other kind of stuff. What happens is you create it may feel good in the moment, and you may get a whole bunch of people inspired, and you may even get some book stalkers to come follow you around and call you crazy. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, when you're gone, your work gets debunked and you get remembered as a fraud.
Yep.
So
And
that's important.
that has happened. So you're right on point with that one. Where are we now? Oh, so as I'm trying to speed this thing along,
You know that don't never work, Chuck. Just take
I'm
your
gonna try.
time.
Everybody left the house, so as I can, so I won't be disturbed. Um, this right here, let me see. This is in
Oh
the
no, you can
museum.
tell that's a
This is
black guy.
the steel. Oh yeah, this is another one I thought was worth bringing up. Where is it going? We do not know of Babylon. Okay. So what I was trying to get to was this in the monument from the early dynastic period. Is celebrating the victory of King Anumtum of Lagash over his neighboring city-state Umma, which was ruled by the Sumerian king Ush. This is interesting because, well, outside of how he's depicted with that Jimmy Durante kind of nose, the Sumerian war deity Ninirsu is seen holding a net full of prisoners as he clubs one of them trying to escape. Now, this iconography is of importance because this depiction of the Sumerian war deity is clearly not Negro, African, Black. Neither are the Sumerian captives of Umma under Lugal Ush. Now, as best we can make out of these individuals, how the Sumerians depicted this war scene. Okay, you see right here? See the little dudes right here?
Mm-hmm.
These are Sumerians. These are Sumerian soldiers. Let's look at another side of it. And these are captives, and they strip them of their clothes, of course. But just look at the way that they depicted them. Why are they depicting them in this way?
It's like spy versus spy.
Yes, yes. Or Mr. Magoo.
Right. That's what I'm thinking about, Mr. Magoo. That's
yeah, that's the first thing I noticed. If I can make out this in here, he's on this right here in the flax soldier.
This Mo, you need to stop with your mess. Somebody did I feed the baby yet?
These war scenes. These soldiers. These are Sumerian soldiers. And we see the same thing or something similar to it on one of the victory steels of Sargon the Great. In Sargon's victory stele, SB3, Sargon lived in the mid-24th century BC. He sees the throne of Zababa, the king of Kish, and he went on to conquer all of Akkad. He conquered Sumer in 2350 and later conquered the rest of Mesopotamia, thus creating one of the first empires in history. Now we see this depiction here of these soldiers. These are Sumerians. Well, this one is a captive, another captive. Let's go forward. And what's interesting about the Sargon victory stele, we see Sargon with a set of captives, some of which were loyalists to the Sumerian ruler at the time, Lugal Zagisi. And the hairstyle is comparable with that of the Sumerian soldiers carrying pieces of booty on the lower register of the Standard of Ur. When you go to the Standard of Ur, we see the same thing. Look at it. This is on the Standard of Ur, and this is on Sargon's war scene. See, what they did was, according to the Concise Dictionary of Akkadian, they did certain things. They shaved their heads a certain way to identify them. You see, to shave half as punishment as a sign of slavery, according to Jeremy Black. And here we have, oh, here it is. Here we have it here. Because on the Standard of Ur, if we go back up to it, on the Standard of Ur, it has, of course, this this peaceful scene here where trade and on and on. And then on the side, you have one is the victory, and you have the war scene where you see people being run over by chariots and killed, beheadings, all this stuff. I should have put that in the slide, but that's on there as well, which is where we see part of this coming from. Kishi referred to the Akkadian practice of shaving half of the head as punishment or a sign of bondage. The forelock half to do in Akkadian. So a kishi. In Nanatum's vulture steel, where you see these captives, and then you got sargons. Look at that. See?
Some group of people looks like.
Hey, that's part of that was my whole thing. I just wanted to present the evidence on what I came up with, and offer any other individuals to come up with their argument on what they can pull. And like I said, I still haven't seen anybody with afros.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, I think that it's a reach, and is it even necessary to lay claim to Sumerian? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know why. I mean, yeah, okay. They're considered the first to have a writing system. Now, I think that's a kind of a play on words, because in ancient Kemet, you have the hieroglyphs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But later on, when you have, I think it's called, I forgot the actual script called a heretic.
Right.
And the heretic and demonic. That script, that writing form, okay, that's down the road. But in Sumer, that cuneiform writing, that was considered a written script, not like the pictograph form that it evolved from. So they early on, prior to, say, because you can go back around the first millennium, it's really difficult to even a lot of Assyriologists find it difficult to really decipher some of the earlier writings because it's so complicated. And it wasn't until later on that they get a better field of it.
Right. But it's like Sumeria gets credit for kind of absorbing a lot of the ideas that developed in the surrounding areas and organizing them. And then that becomes what's referenced to as the first.
Yeah.
But when you say the first, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else was slow and these people came up out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But I think that people misinterpret it as being that. Because remember, the people call Sumerians by the Akkadians, they came into that region and lived among the people that were already there.
That's right.
This is documented. It's clear. This book here, Art of the First Cities, well-documented book. And it shows you the progression and the people.
But if you think about it, that's just kind of the progression of all. Like if you think about like the United States, right? If we were to strip away all of the trigger points, right? You have a group of people coming from elsewhere and assimilating in certain ways with the people that were there, right? Yeah. And then other people moving in and doing the same thing. When you look at Greece and Rome, you have similar histories of people coming in. Even in Egypt, you have similar history. So I think that's just something that is part of the human experience.
Yes, I agree. But some people just don't see it that way. Because it's just an open and shut case. They were black. There was some shenanigans that went on. They supplanted the original people and they substitute them with these things we're looking at here. I mean, that's basically the argument.
It's like cartoon villains.
Yeah.
Throughout all of history, they would plot to erase, and it's like at some point it gets ridiculous because it doesn't pan like a theory that out there needs to pan out every turn. And most of the time it's reaches. It's a series of reaches.
Yeah.
And it's really like, oh, let me ask you a question, Chuck, because we all believed it, right?
Yep. Sure did.
The feeling that you could do more in life comes when you let that idea go.
I agree.
It's very free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the other idea creates all these other thought forms, like you can't do this because they're gonna. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know, I've learned an appreciation for all cultures, and particularly African culture, because I'm like, with other groups of people that have flourished throughout the world, and then we have all of this vast wisdom that Africa has to offer. All you have to do is just dig in and get it. That, you know, some people that may not have done the study or the research, they would just rather bypass that and just hop on to some other culture that they know very little about.
Yeah. Because what happens is, the approach is immature. It's like if you learn, if you decide to identify with Carthage or someone like that, some group like that, right? And then you find evidence that they were actually sacrificing children as part of their culture, and now you're looking for another culture instead of just saying this is what ancient people did. You know what I'm saying? It creates that whole debate that Polite loves he loves to bring up, where he goes into the Bible and says, well, if you like the Bible, then you must believe this is true too, because you like the Bible and you have to believe every word of it. And it's like, that whole idea is immature. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to walk around the same way that people walked around 3,500 years ago in order to, and like everything grows and expresses itself in a natural way, right? So the tree is not a sapling forever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the kitten becomes a cat. Things grow. Languages evolve and change. So cultures and religions have to evolve and change with the times as well. You know what I'm saying? So these arguments that we need to go and live like it was 3,500 BC in 2021. You know what that means? A bunch of people living in tents. And that's going on where I live at. A bunch of people living in tents. I don't know whether they think it's 3,500 BC, but they're living in tents. And the people who are playing like they want it to be 3,500 BC are rapidly moving toward tents.
Hold on for a second, Jaded. Satin, what does Zion Lex thoughts and beliefs have to do with anything that Chuck believes? Do them two travel in the same circle? I mean, what does that? I don't associate with them over there. So what does what they do have to do with me? I asked Chuck to do this a long time ago, and he just got time to do it. So what does what Zion Lex have to do with me? I don't go that way. I don't clock them. I don't know what they doing. They could be burning up and somebody could be pissing on them to put it out for all I know. Please. Don't tell me nothing they doing. I don't want to know. And if you watch me, you know that very well. I'm sorry to interrupt y'all. Keep going. I just
no problem.
That's the second time you'd have brought that up, Sat. Now stop.
If they do anything funny, Sat, you could let me know. Just the funny stuff, though.
Yeah. No, I've been like I said, I've been doing this for.
I'm sorry, Trev.
I was dealing with this stuff before it became popular now. So
right, like Sonetta is not a trendsetter.
I've been sitting up here doing interviews with Chuck for about 5 years.
Yep.
Like what he probably did last night was go through a bunch of videos and look what he had that was similar.
I done did it a week before. Do you know how annoying that is when I already did some shit? And y'all done came and tell me something they did that morning and I done did it a week or more ago? A year more ago?
Yeah, this is old. They just getting on the bandwagon.
Like, dude, they done already blocked you once over here, and I reversed the decision. I'll reverse my own decision and block you again. You know I don't like nobody dragging nothing over to my channel. Leave that shit over there. Me and Zion Lex, you don't hear me mention Zion Lex over here. And after last night, I'm starting to think you're trying to start some shit. Last chance, final warning. I'm done.
All right. So, a prominent, well, I'm not even going to say prominent. Let me retract that. An individual that a self-published individual put out a book that purports to claim that the Sumerians were black, and this individual here, Gudea, I listened to him in an interview on another platform, where he made the claim that this lambskin hat is symbolic of an afro, which means that they were black because, quote, his hat is symbolic of an afro. Now, why not grow an afro? That's another story, but that's what this guy said. Many of the statues of Gudea, he wears a headdress, which some have made the ridiculous charge that it represented, or imitated kinky hair and afro. False. So yeah, he was saying that it was an imitation of an afro. And these are the same crowns or hats. You see Hammurabi wearing one, and you have Ornamu of Lagash wearing one. It's not. I don't see anything that connects that to being an afro.
I think it says that they probably didn't smell that great because it was hot in Iraq, and they would walk around with wool.
Man, I mean, because let me look at the argument here. This brother said that these are
That's a Scully
representing an afro. Now I'm trying to find out what is the
spark yourself right into a whirlwind and write out my chat. That's what you gonna do. If you want to stir up something, go stir it up in somebody else's chat, because you can read very well, Satin, and you did the opposite of what that message said. So one of y'all mods, go ahead and take care of that. You just messed that last strike. You just messed that last chance up.
So this is Gudea's son, and he has whether he got it from his father, who knows. But the point is, it's just this is part of that weak argument. I mean, it's almost so dumb. You get this. What's the point of entertaining? It's an afro. I can't. Oh boy. So anyway, the fundamental problem with those arguments is inconsistency. They'll say that under Gudea was the Renaissance period where you find blue-eyed statues, yet this same Gudea, after the Gutian occupation, reconstructed temples, built new ones, erected numerous statues, sculptures of various images, claimed to be white Sumerians, yet he has a hat supposedly representing an afro. I mean, it's just an inconsistent argument. It's stupid. You know, so different, like in this book by Gene Evans, it is only in modern scholarship that a Sumerian people were designated according to definitions of race and ethnicity.
They're not even built like Africans.
I mean, where's that image at? Because I was playing with the idea of what this guy who put this book out.
That ain't built like no afro.
Of course not. But I'm gonna show you something else that just kind of knocked that out.
Like Eugene Fro.
You know,
tilted
like
back
this.
a little bit.
Now these are this is another one. This is another statue of Gudea wearing his trademark hat. but it's not this Daradite. It's ivory. So, but I, I'm sorry.
It's a white bro.
But why didn't this one get any shine?
I mean,
That's the
and what
same
those are those supposed to be little bitty Bantu knots?
Bantu, yeah, those supposed to be little Afro puffs.
That's a wool scully.
You got a wrench, mofo. Go look for yourself.
So, I mean, like I said, it's just a ridiculous idea. Now, I'll be fair. The book is called Black Sumer: The African Origin of Civilization by this guy. Okay. Now, I thought it was disingenuous because here's an image that he has on the cover. Now, the implication is that if you're going to have a topic called Black Sumer, naturally the individual here has to be an African. Yes?
You would think so.
Yeah, you would think so. So I did a little searching and I found out where this statue is located. So, okay. This is not one of the more flattering images of this character, but this just happened to be Gudea. This guy.
That looked like half of a short fat man statue. I'm sorry, but it does.
Yeah.
That's like my third grade
Big
principal.
belly.
Same individual. Here it is on one end, one side, the other side, back side. And you'll find this in the Louvre Museum in Paris. Right here. Got the best looking, we still got the unibrow. Here's on the cover. But that's the same individual here. Here. It's a fallacious argument. Weak. Same dude. Here he is again.
It's just different material. It depends on what kind of stone they used as to what color he turned out to be.
So they're not putting it in any racial category. But here we are in 20-something, and this is for whatever agenda these people have, that's what they're trying to promote. It's like they're trying to take over everybody. Maybe it's like, okay, they did it to us, so now we're going to do it to them. We're going to take over everybody. We're going to say, we're everything. Everybody's us.
And
everybody.
And the conspiracy theory I got is this, right? At the end of the day, what that means is that nobody likes black people even worse than they already don't. You know what I'm saying? Because like you want to take over everybody's stuff. Like these are the marks
acting
that
like you don't know what's
going
on when you clearly know what's going on does not lighten the mood. So stop. Because all you're doing right now is frustrating me and making me angrier. Y'all clearly know what I do and don't like. So doing stuff I don't like while I'm already frustrated is just going to piss me off. And if I'm already pissed, when I turn on you, it's going to be even worse than it would be.
Now, that last
really
guy, he
not
definitely
helping
looked
the
like an
situation. You should have learned from Sat 10. Don't push stuff. But people ask you to stop. Stop. People have limits. Learn to honor them.
What was that?
If you didn't see Chuck, Sinetta came over here being real nasty last night.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm.
Man. No, I wouldn't. I was at work.
Well, I know if you was around, you probably would have said something, but you know he picked a time when ain't nobody here.
So, what is this? This is something that I pointed out. Like, one individual said that, okay, you find in Proto-Japonic, early Japanese, you'll find Sumerian words there, giving the implication that, well, the Japanese may have been the forerunners of the Sumerians. That's just another argument that I kind of touched on in the article. Just as it's in your Rahim Minon, using
funny, they all use the same methodology.
Yeah. He concluded that Tamil is a cognate with Sumerian by using the same comparative method. Rajan went a step further that Herrnstein by using whole lines from Sumerian literature to further his arguments via the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature. What is it, for example?
So is that like a Rosetta Stone of Sumerian text that's been translated?
It's released through Oxford University, and it is translations of all of the known Sumerian texts that have been published, and it is placed in that database where scholars, Assyriologists, etc., can access them, as well as just the layperson, where you can just put in a search for under a name or word, and you'll find all of the associations with it and the full text transliterated and translated. So it's an amazing web database that the University of Oxford had released, as well as the Chicago Assyrian dictionary called the Kai, which took about 70 years to complete. That is available. The volumes are available for purchase, as well as just going to the website and just looking at the PDFs.
Line number 3, Amun-Re.
Amun-Re. Yeah.
Yo, do it say Musas? Ras? Amun-Re Musas?
No, this is a guy that's he's this individual. No, he has in academia he has a research paper where he's making the comparisons of Sumerian with Tamil, and he's given examples. So I just took a page from one of his
I mean, it's just funny how you find little phrases that pop up places like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And the stuff that they correlate to, like, no, what I mean by that is like they didn't care where they snitched stuff from. It was burning. But the whole sentence, it was burning in front of us, spinning and circling and burning live. So that's not a good thing. But if that's where they snitched it from, they snitched it, altered it just a little bit. So if you altered that, ain't no telling what you turned it into.
No, I mean, I was gonna say this, right? People, the Bible is impactful all around the world. And most people are familiar with the stories, and because of the different colonialism and things like that, those stories have a great impact on academia in certain respects, right? So when you have the story of the Tower of Babel, right? You still have scholars to this day who are trying to prove that every language is connected. So then they'll look for little nuances and in different texts and say, oh, that sounds like this. Is there a linguistic connection? You know what I'm saying? So, and that stuff comes from the impact of the Bible, like, because no one else talks about everybody having the same language and then splitting up. No one else has a story like that, I don't think.
What?
I'm just saying, York snitched stuff from so many places that.
Well, not York. I'm talking about the Bible itself. Like this.
Yeah, I'm
like,
talking about.
But does anybody else have a story that's similar to the Tower of Babel? Yes.
Yes. There is a Sumerian text, Emerka. I forget the full name. I know it's Emerka, and I have it, and it talks about Enlil confusing the speech. Where that story kind of takes its origins from, that the Bible writers eventually incorporated it. Yeah, that is that. Yep, I have it. Yep, it does say that. It does mention
that ever-burning question.
They don't mention a Tower of Babel, but it does mention that Enki came. Enlil came down and confused. I'm gonna pull it up. I don't have it on me right now. I forgot to pull in my files.
So do you prescribe to the theory that much of the Hebrew culture or the written parts of the Bible were developed during the period of captivity?
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. All that Bible stuff,
You
I
don't
gave
give
that
a
stuff up so many years ago. I
yeah.
don't like it. I don't want to hear about it. I am totally opposed to it. Fuck them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I'm just not. That's not. I leave that argument with other people because that book is just like garbage to me. I just personally. That's for me personally.
See,
I'm
my
not.
thing is this.
I've been dealing
My
with it for
theory
too
on
many
religion is
years.
people believe it.
Huh?
So
Say
my
again?
theory on religion is people believe it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, listen.
You know what I'm saying?
People
Like
believe.
I don't get into much of anything, but I do respect people's right to believe.
Of course, absolutely. And I give people that peace. Just don't bring it to me, meaning like
Mm-hmm.
trying to
I feel you.
proselytize me.
Yeah.
And that's that. I listen. I kind of grew out of that attack mode of Muslims and Christians, is where I see you walking down the street with a Bible in your hand, I'm going after you. And that was that programming that I was under the cult, because at that time York was pushing this whole anti-religious thing, and so I would take the Quran, and if I see a Muslim, I'd say, "Hey, Aki," yeah, Aki, yeah. And I show him that I take the Quran and I drop it on the ground and I start tap dancing on it. Now, where's your Allah?
Oh yeah, that's
And,
OD.
I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah, I got into
I was
it.
always taught to respect everyone's religion, but I think
That was cold
when I got
blooded,
to
I
a
know,
point when
but
I was studying all these different doctrines
yeah.
that I got like that, and in my early
Why are
20s,
you
my
licking
late
my
20s.
pocket? You just greedy.
Yeah.
Stop.
I had came to that realization. Like I said, it took years to grow out of that kind of programming. I grew up
You
in the
ain't
church,
never
of course.
seen the wisdom in chasing nobody round,
Hmm?
berating nobody with what you call the truth. None of
Yeah,
that. Because at
I
the
don't
end of
even
the day, as soon
I
as they're
don't
gonna
even push
find
it.
a way to escape, they're gonna be jumping out the window, running out the
Yeah,
door, jumping
yeah,
out the car as soon as you slow down.
yes. So, in saying that, that's why I say that in some religions, yes, it serves its purpose for some people. They need it, and I will leave them in that peace. I will never try to disturb my mother's peace.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother, I no, anybody that brings it up, I just like go with it. Okay, cool, and I
You get
don't
up and
say
leave the
anything
room.
disparaging
Yeah,
about it.
I've
Not
I've learned
whatsoever.
it. I've learned to just get up and leave the room myself. But
No. I can vibe with them. I say, okay,
when
cool.
I'm in company of minds that are more scientific in different pursuits, my thing is I like to think about how mystically occurred, right? So most
Oh,
of
the
history is
fucking
based upon
clown.
narratives.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
then amongst the narrative, like there is some truth, like within the narrative, but then there's a way that it actually happened. You know what I'm saying?
of course.
And I like to get into that because a lot of things happen haphazardly.
Hmm.
A lot
And
of
that's
things
why
that we think of by divine order happen haphazardly.
I think that each talking point has to be addressed specifically and focused. I think that's the one of the best ways to address an argument, and
Mm-hmm.
not even so much as a belief, but if you're going to address, say, a biblical passage, of many, there's so many different interpretations of that passage. And
Yeah.
then it comes out to which one are you going to believe? Just like any one of these translations. Because some
Mm-hmm.
people will translate one text a certain way, and someone else may have a different position of
That's right.
it. Because I haven't reached the level where I can, well, kind of, but certain things, if you have a clear understanding of the grammar and what a word means and how it's applied in a text, and then you try to arrive at the best word that we have today to represent what is talking about back then without overshadowing the significance of it. And someone else may not take that position, and they may be religiously convicted, and they may want to tie it into something to coincide with their convictions.
With their
And that
reference
can,
point, right?
right, that's their reference point.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be complicated. And so,
Yeah.
so which one do we accept? And that's not just, that's and everything from any ancient text.
If you're approaching it from that either or decision, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So when you have, and then your faith, if that is what you have faith in and you're convicted by that, then by all means go for it.
Now,
You know,
you
I'm
put me
happy
on with
where I
something.
am.
If
I
you
was
want to put
watching the
yourself in
YouTube
peanut butter
channel.
and howl at the full moon, that's perfectly fine with me. Just don't make me join you.
I was watching your channel early on in the week, Chuck, right? And I came across this video, and then it sent me down the rabbit hole, right? And it was this podcast, I believe, and they were getting into debunking some of Stitchen's work and the stuff that he was talking about with the Sumerians. And there was one point I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if I remember to write it down or not, but it was one point they were talking about this whole concept that the gods came to mine for gold, and that's why they created man. And and you were debunking that, and they were getting into how that wasn't the case, and they didn't even use the word gold at all like that.
Right.
So can you get into that a little bit?
Real fast.
1 second. Before we get into that, V. Bennett, are you still here? You might want to change the horse that you're betting on, because we might have a runner, but it ain't gonna be Eugene.
Oh, is Genie running?
Young Little Spoon is posting a whole lot of stuff about his 51 acres in Costa Rica, even though he can't spell Costa Rica.
Yeah, I knew Genie was gonna run. Genie got the type of charges. He might think he could run from and not really
Catch
get
his butt at the border. They gonna
like
ID
Genie
him.
got probation coming. So if they
Look, he
catch
got
him,
caught on Monday. Unless he plan on running tomorrow, he ain't going nowhere. But go on here with what y'all was talking about. I just wanted to inform Bennett that he might turn out better betting on Spoonie than he will Eugene.
He owes us too. He owes us the end. Yeah. So you were getting into the gold and that whole narrative.
Okay, I'm we're gonna go through that. Matter of fact, I can pull it up. What's this on Brother Perez? York said Egypt predated Sumer. Yeah, he did, and then he flipped on that and said that Sumer predated Egypt. You know, he went back and forth. Does Sumer believe it? No, I don't. I don't believe that to be African. And I base that on the evidence. I just, I'm gonna share this thing again. Where are we? Okay. Okay. 1, 2. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Share. Thing. Okay. What you were talking about. This is something that one of York's is parroting of Sitchin. Did the Anunnaki mine for gold as Malachi York claimed? So in this little publication, it was called The Actual Fact number 12. I tried to lay it out this way. The question was asked because many Nawapians, when challenged on this gold theory of York, they will not answer with a citation from a Mesopotamian text. Rather, they will take the focus away from Mesopotamia and direct you to South African gold mines.
What?
Yeah, because
I heard that before.
There's an individual, I'll forget his name.
Talking about that.
Yeah. So they'll take you there when what they're saying is talking about, well, let's go into it. So where York says they make statements about events in time, but they don't produce the evidence or the document to support what they say, which leaves the reader in the same state they are in religion to believe, but not have facts. I put that up there, of course, how I rub that in their face. And based on the above, York was fully aware of the importance of supporting your commentaries with evidence. In the tract called Enki as Creator, and by the way, Enki as Creator was nothing more than bits and pieces taken from Zechariah Sitchin's book, The Something of Enki. I forget that book he put out before he died. What was it called? I can't remember. Anyway, let's go. So this is what it says. Where we at? Oh, so Anunnaki anyway, the gods were complaining about having to work the mines for the Nud gold in Abzu, South Africa, as being too difficult. Now, York didn't even consult the text of the Atrahasis, because in the Atrahasis, which is also a flood story, it talks about this stuff, but it doesn't mention gold. Tablet 1, line 21 to 25, the gods were digging watercourses, canals, they opened the life of the land. The Igigi gods were digging watercourses, canals, they opened the life of the land. The Igigi gods dug the Tigris River and the Euphrates thereafter. Benjamin Foster's translation. Stephanie Dahlia, an Assyriologist, the god had to clear channels, lifelines of the land. Dug out the Tigris River and dug out the Euphrates. Assyriologist W.G. Lambert in 1969. After Anu had ascended to the heavens and Enki had descended to the watery abyss, Apsu, the seven great divinities imposed labor on the other deities. They dug the Tigris and Euphrates River to supply life-giving waters to the land. Now, of these three explanations, you can all you got to do is just look at online. You can find the Atrahasis. You just pull it up and go for it. You can read the whole text. And nowhere does it mention gold being mined for. That is exclusively a Zechariah Sitchin commentary. No proof, no citation, no text pulled up. Even when he mentions it, he doesn't offer a text. He has no textual reference to support that belief. Now, Kusig 17, that's the word for gold that's used in multiple texts in Sumerian literature. Okay, and you can pull this at the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature, the transliteration, which is very in detail, and what it talks about in reference to gold. All these different references that they do mention in gold, nothing, any of them speaks about the Anunna or Anunnaki coming down from anywhere in the Biru or a 747 and mining for gold. So in the Wars of Gods and Men, page 78, Zechariah Sitchin stated that this gold mining myth in the Earth Chronicles, it said the metal with its unique properties was needed back home for a vital need. As best we can make out, this vital need could have been for suspending the gold particles in the Biru's wanting atmosphere and thus shielded from critical dispensation. That is what the purpose of mining for gold was supposed to have been all about. And then York, of course, who was a Sitchin parrot, he put in this so-called Holy Tablets book, chapter 2, tablet 130 to 131, or 31. He says that the planet Risk has three suns, Utu, Apsu, Shemesh, that all have damaging ultraviolet rays that has a much faster rotation than that of this planet. So the depleting of the ozone layer occurred at a faster rate. We needed to build a protection, a dome of dust, a dome of gold dust particles suspended in the atmosphere to protect the planet from the damaging ultraviolet rays. Now that is your spin on Sitchins's claim. So both of them are nuts.
Hey,
So
Ezekiel.
Hey, how you doing? How you
Fine, how you
doing?
doing?
Good, thanks. I'd like to piggyback on that. Peace and love to everyone on the panel. Shout out to Chuck Morgan. I love this discussion. Um, so I know all of those things that Nubians used to believe and what Chuck just read, but I wanted to put some information in there because in York's writings, in his letters to the Utica bookstore, when he would write polite, he would discuss this. And he would also mention, um, he'd always have a saying, um, you are the jewels of my eye. And he would refer back to the Bible as the jewels were like the people of God. So they were like shiny jewels to God's eye. And this is where we get the word Jewish, right? So when he would speak about the gold, he started going into telomeres, into um, monatomic gold, and how eating monatomic gold will get you into a spiritual realm. And he once explained that when the Anunnaki came harvest came here to harvest gold, that they were also harvesting us human beings, that we were the gold that they were also seeking. And this was the connection, the truth behind the whole gold thing, that it was monatomic gold. And they not only needed it for their planet, but um, the monatomic gold that we would consume would allow us to reach the state to go with them. And it was kind of weird because then he kept flipping the script. And then later on, I think that's when he started getting into, oh, they're coming to not take us away, but to harvest the white people, that they would actually be eating the white people and consuming them, like that episode of The Twilight Zone, where it was a book
How to
for
cook
man.
man.
Yes, How to Serve Man. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, that was it. And I've seen people even show the Wapic script and that script together, and it looks crazy. It looks almost the same.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hell of an explanation. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
He actually said that stuff, and then that was like, okay, I guess we're not leaving. Okay, it was it was trip. Yeah, and that whole phase passed, and he also mentioned he also mentioned a return and different cycles, and he said that they once came in 1993, that they would come back in 2003, and that's when we had the blackout in the Northeast.
Yep.
And he said the next few cycles they would skip 10 years because they come back every 10-year cycles, but they would skip 2013 and come back in 2023,
Yeah.
and then the last trip was going to be in like 2033.
And that's deep because now they're persona non grata and they're supposed to be the ones eating people. The Anunnaki are now
Always somebody's
cannibals.
supposed to be running around eating somebody. Hey, Malik, 2-for-1 Pickle Man
Crazy.
nail clippers. The Fuzzy Wuzzies.
Yeah.
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. So Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't really fuzzy. Now was
I think that just the term Anunnaki, I think that's something that should be just cleared up real fast.
for
Because
Go
The
ahead.
way that like Sitchin and then York, what they've done is they've taken a word. By the time it became Anunnaki, the way that it is after the Sumerian period. In Sumerian grammar or literature, they do refer to them as Anuna. Anuna. And what's interesting is how they, meaning York and people like Sitchin, they say that, well, Anunnaki means those who came from Anu to Ki. Now, I'm trying to get my camera to work because I wanted to show it on my chalkboard. I wanted to write it out, but my camera's not working now for some reason.
Not. Did you
But
unplug it and plug it back in?
I just did, and it's still not coming up.
Cameras are the red-headed stepchild of
Do
computers.
you choose it in the toolbar?
Say again?
In the settings, did you choose it?
Open your actual camera on the computer and see if it'll come up.
Hold on. But go ahead. I'm gonna do that while y'all.
Oh, Truth is say one of Dr. York's aliens was called Fuzzy Wuzzies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Fuzzy Wuzzies.
Now the Fuzzy Wuzzies.
The Fuzzy Wuzzies was a tribe of Sudanese.
Mm-hmm.
Lord,
yeah.
Okay,
I have it up.
And York said that was G.
Okay, so if it came up like that, then close it out and then try your camera again and restream.
Okay, that's true.
Ezekiel,
sorry,
please,
I didn't mean to step on you.
But make sure you close the other camera out first. Sometimes you have to get a nudge.
Yep.
I had some quick questions. I'm gonna. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna probably put them in the chat, but maybe Chuck can answer some of them because I had debates with Nuwabians about this. When I was in college, I studied.
Do you have it? Hold on one second, Ezekiel. Go to the gear and go into the camera settings and make sure you have the right camera selected.
Oh yeah,
it'd be like
that is right. Yeah, go ahead. I got it. I'm gonna do that now.
Yeah, go ahead, Ezekiel.
So when I was in college, I studied African history from prehistoric African history all the way up to modern times. And when we got to the Egyptian empires or dynasties, it was all lining up, but the original Nubians said that they said that the Nubians had their first capital in Monroe, and then it like burned down and they moved it to Napata. And when York would write us, he happened to mention that, and this is where he started coming up with the change in the name of the language to Napatic, and it was referring to the Nubians. So he tried to tell us that Napata came first, and then Monroe. And I'm in college. I'm in New York, and my professor is
I told you that, Brian. Sorry, Zeke.
My professor is saying no, Monroe was first, and Napata came after. So I still go with my professor, but then we also had other things like if York tried to tell us that Egypt was older than Sumer, but it just hasn't been found yet, and that it would be found in Napata. And then he also mentioned that there was contemporary civilizations like the Indians or the Hindu, because if you go into the Adam and Eve story, they spoke a mix between Sanskrit and Sumerian, which they called Ugaric. But I don't know.
No, there's no validity in that.
Yeah, I don't know, Chuck, if there was any other contemporary civilizations in early, and I mean the earliest Sumerian civilization. Maybe you can answer that for us.
Yeah, I mean it's well documented. You had the Ubaid civilization in southern Mesopotamia before the Sumerians came there, and then you had the
Göbekli Tepe civilization that was in Syria.
I'm speaking specifically in the southern
area, the marshes,
yeah, and it is clear in all of the books on ancient Sumer that before the people called Sumerians arrived, there were other civilizations living there.
Peace and welcome, Tayana.
Yeah.
And what do you think about Monroe or Napata? Do you know if the capital of Nubia was Monroe first or Napata? I'm
I have
talking
no
about
idea.
The Victoria Mountain region, because in college what they taught us was the Nubians um, were, pre-dynastic Egyptians, and the ones from the river now in the north, which is the south, would come down. They would take the children, raise them in Egypt, and then bring them back to Nubia.
Interesting. I have no idea.
I know that I believe you're correct about Moreau being the first capital and then being switched to Napata. I don't know about why that happened, but I believe I've read the same. But I don't
Well,
know, bro. Like
Oh,
I would take anything York said with like a big
Grain of salt.
huge
and
spoon of salt,
you,
like one of them grandma spoons that be on the wall full of
One of them big
salt.
old
and,
wood.
when
that
you
should
had
beat you
mentioned
with when you get out of line.
the brother that's speaking now, when you had mentioned, remember when you said that Adam and Eve, they spoke a language that was a combination of what?
Sumerian and Sanskrit. We call this
Right,
Ugaric.
right. The book called The First Language. It was one of those little $5 books. The sister who put that book together, she told me, because I asked her, the script, because York puts the script in there that's supposed to be that language. I asked her about it. I said, where did you get it from? She said, I just went on the internet and got something that looked like uniform, and he wanted it, and we just put it in a book. I didn't know what it said.
Now, is Sanskrit a spoken language?
It's called Sanskrit, but yes, it is a spoken language. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
One
one
of
of
the
the
many
different
languages in
languages of India. Yeah. Yeah. Or Indus Valley languages.
But I believe that Sanskrit was like the sacred
Mm-hmm.
language. It was used in more religious ceremonies, etc.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
And it's also where we get our numbers from, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So I heard something like that.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
no, I mean I'm not sure. I mean
I heard that.
it seems plausible that
Oh, you said you wanted to show something on the chalkboard.
Oh yeah.
the Anuna and the Anunnaki.
Oh yeah. I wanted to show my
In the fight to
one
get
of
the
my
camera
language
going.
instructors. I have my first tablet.
Oh, that's the joint you had posted, right?
Huh? Oh
You
yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
posted that earlier, right? I was trying to check that out. Now,
Let's
what
see,
does that say?
what is that? Can you see me?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
nah, you
So
fell out right there. Keep it right a little bit
it's
up,
right
right
here.
there. Yep.
Okay. So you have the near the sign here, which represented a deity,
Off my pillow.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have the year, which is identifying this individual here as being a deity.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Ba'um, Munas, this is a female, Munas Saga, Dumu, well, we'll go through that. Dumu, Anna, this is Nin, this is for lady or female, Nin Uruku Ga. This is Nin Ani, and this is Gudea, NC Lagash. That was one of the first ones I was able to put together. So my language instructor sent me that, and this as a gift. This is the Denier sign, which is
that's the joint that they would be holding in the reliefs.
Well, yeah. Well, this was see, it had different functions. One, it represented the sky. It represented a deity or a god, which is usually why the star, because it's shaped, it's in the form of a star. And sometimes it's used in grammatical. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm away from the mic. It's used as a grammatical marker for pronunciation of words. Yeah. So what I was trying to
kind of looks like an asterisk.
See, I can understand how that would be used, but I get none of that.
It was supposed to be a star.
Yeah.
I'll say I get the concept, but if you tried to teach me how to do that, I would just be lost. But I'm not a language learner. That part of my brain is turned all the way off.
Okay. Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this word. This is what we're most familiar with. Anunnaki, or something like this. Way to spell it. Well, let me do it a different way. Sorry. Anunnaki. I think that's how they spell it. So this is what we're mostly familiar with. Okay, so the Sumerians always refer to it as Anu Na. Now, what's interesting is, okay, so that's important because we're going to get into that. Let me see if I can do my thing here. Okay, so this is important. This sign here on right here. So first of all, they'll put that little star in front to let you know that it's talking about a deity. Okay, so this word represented water. It represents water, semen, liquid, sperm for the most part. All right. So then there's this other word. So that's for that. So you have this word nun. This word nun. Okay. So nun is the term that they use for royalty.
Get from over there.
So you got royalty, and usually Assyriologists refer to that royalty as being a prince or priest of a princely bloodline, because the seed or the sperm are nun. See? And then we got this here, na. Now this is where it gets interesting, because they have Anuna K4. Now this is when you start getting into the grammar of it. Let me put it right here. This is when you get into the grammar of it, because
pull it down a little bit.
Okay. So the na here, it marks the adjective. Okay, the adjective which follows the noun, and the K4 marks the ergative, which shows that it's talking about a thing. So you don't see for this right here, right? So this sign looks like a little diamond. I'm trying to do it simplified. This little thing here is key. That is supposed to be what you say for earth or land or place. Key. That's where you get Anunnaki. But unfortunately, key is not in the text. They use the K. And that K4 marks the ergative. It's where this is the word that they use to identify to be of something. K4 is in every Sumerian grammar book.
So he's pronouncing a punctuation, basically.
It's not even, it's there for grammatical purposes. It's not even a word. It's there for strictly grammatical purposes. So when they transliterate it, they put it and they make it clear. So anyone who studies it, they'll be able to see, okay, that's K4. And that's
he never read the books, so he wouldn't know that.
No. So yeah, that so this being a consonant, if it ends, if a word ends in a consonant, they usually they separate it or they duplicate it. So you say anun, so it's not from anu right here, na and ki. That's wrong, but that's what York taught. Because this is like level 1. This is like the basics of it. And this shows you that York knew nothing about Sumerian grammar at all. And neither did Stitchin for him to make that same mistake. Because York was just biting off of Stitchin.
Yeah.
So that's important. The first word there, is what they use in Sumerian to mean water, which is usually semen. And we know the context is in reference to semen because this is the royal seed. Anu, not to be of the royal seed. It's that simple.
So
And this is why you got Sonetta eating his sperm.
rubbing it on his face and all that other stuff.
This is why.
I was just gonna say,
I'm sorry, I had to take that shot.
It almost seems like the Anu weren't necessarily like extraterrestrial or supernatural beings. They just seemed like they were like the royal family.
That part.
Yes, because the in their literature, the Sumerians, at least during the period of Gudea. Now you got to keep this in mind because this is not in the early period of Sumer where you have this kind of literature. A lot of the literature that talks about the Anuna, that comes during the period of the Renaissance, what they call the Renaissance under Gudea.
So they may even be describing the people of old as being greater than themselves, or as a means by which to draw people back to the old ways. That makes sense.
I'm not too clear on that. What I'm saying is that how they revered their religious deities, they put under Gudea, because Gudea put a lot of emphasis on deity worship. His personal deity was Ninursu, and Anuna collectively was those of the princely seed or the royal seed. That royalty, they were the royal ones above the royalty of Sumer.
Cali, Mississippi, welcome to the treehouse.
An excellent book. I'm gonna pull it up and share my screen because I want you to see it. Yeah, maybe you can get it. I got it. Michael Heiser had sent it to me. What is it? This one. Okay. Yeah. The Anunnaki gods according to ancient Mesopotamian sources. This is an excellent book because this is not Michael, because Michael Heiser is not an Assyriologist. He is commissioned a number of Assyriologists who specialize in various periods of Assyriology, so where they are able to go into specific texts and point out when the first reference was made in regards to this or that. And then, well, they don't actually do like transliteration. Well, they do transliteration, but not like with the cuneiform script. But let me just read parts of it. It is my hope that these articles will provide primary source data and informed scholarly discussions to blunt the nonsense about the Anunnaki that has proliferated on the internet. The choice is simple. One can either base one's knowledge about the Anunnaki on the absurd speculations of ancient astronaut theorists, speculations that are completely absent of the cuneiform tablet, or one can allow the Sumerians and other Mesopotamian writers to speak for themselves. Okay, so it goes in different. Good. It covers a wide area. Let's say the Babylonian group of gods. Igigu, and Anunnaki. Okay. Of course, I'm not going to go through it all, but I'm just trying to
Chuck,
highlight some key points that I took from it.
Chuck, three quick
Um,
questions, and I
yes,
gotta jump.
yes.
I gotta jump off.
Go
But
for it. Go for it.
I've studied a lot of different sources on the
Uh-huh.
translation of the tablets,
Mhm.
and I want to know if you think that the Sumerians were just anthropomorphizing the uh the astrological things that were going on at their times and worship these events or made these events into deities that they could worship when they
Yeah.
have things like the Tiamat or the key and the
Yes.
planets and so forth,
Yeah.
or were these real beings as the kingship was passed down? um and then my second question really is okay. Um, in the descriptions of Marduk, they sometimes describe him as a being with four arms, multiple eyes, breathing fire, and York always tried to make Marduk into this connection with the angel or archangel Michael. Is
Mhm.
there any truth to that connection? And last, um, what do you think about the whole York story on Adam and Eve or Zakar and Nekabal?
Yeah.
Is there any validity to that with Zakar having Hindu blood and the connection back to Sumer?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take the latter question first. No, that whole thing York just made up. That's part of the whole book selling thing. Um, as far like going, see, he constantly talked about Sumer, 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 Sumer. No citations was ever given to support any of those commentaries that York put in those books. So by saying that Zakar came from, he was the original Black Devil from that bloodline, because remember they came from the constellation of Procyon. I think it was Procyon, and that was what those 200 fallen angels had came from. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No proof, no evidence whatsoever. So I have to dismiss it because York never, and many of opportunities that he could have given a source where you can pull up a Hindu text, you can pull up a biblical text. There was nothing ever offered for the reader to be able to verify what York was saying.
I assume.
I'm
So
sorry to jump in. He said, as I can recall, because I can't recall that constellation, but I remember that he made the connection that the Hindus, the original Hindus,
yeah,
did come from a constellation, and the so-called planet that we think is a state of mind is actually a planet called
Nirvana. That's
Nirvana.
right. It was Nirvana. Yeah,
And
yeah.
when they hit the earth, or the fallen angels, I think
Hmm.
they landed on a mountain, and I want to say that it was called Bali, but this is where like Satan or Shaitan
Yeah,
landed, and that land was cursed, and these were the original black skin, straight hair devils.
yeah. That's who he said that Zakar, who they call Adam, was a descendant of. So none of that stuff has any verification, has nothing to support it. Um, I've checked, rechecked, and then checked again, and found nothing to back that up. It's just bits. It's just ramblings that York just put out there back in 92, 93. What was the other thing?
Marduk, his
Uh,
description in the
yeah,
tablets versus the archangel Michael connection, and Sumerian worship
yeah,
of
yeah,
constellations.
yeah. What you find in the Holy Tablets, if you were to take any translation of the various Babylonian texts that mentions Marduk, um, Enuma, Enuma Elish, is nothing like what York has in his book. Nothing. If you look at that section of the Holy Tablets, when it talks about it's called Enuma Elish. It is no way in any form connected to the Enuma Elish of the Akkadians, because he constantly made the mistake of saying the Enuma Elish that the Sumerians wrote. And the Enuma Elish is not a Sumerian text. It's an Akkadian text. Neberu is an Akkadian word. It's not Sumerian. The words that they, listen, the Sumerians in the text called Mu'apen, Anu, Enlil, wait a minute, Anu, Enlil, I forget the other. It's a text, it's three names.
Ezekiel, have a good night. He said
It's three names.
Go ahead.
It's three names on a text, because that's how it opens up. Anu, Enlil, something, I can't remember. But anyway, that is an astronomical text. The Mu'apen is a astronomy text, and they mention constellations, they mention star formations, and they mention planets, and they only mention 5 planets. When York talks about Pluto and Uranus, none of that stuff is in Mesopotamian literature.
Mm-hmm.
Because they only document what they could make out visually, make out with their own eyes. They have the name for it. I may have to pull that up too. One of them is in Sumerian, Sagmegar. Sagmegar is the term that was used for the planet Jupiter. And Jupiter, because of the way it positions itself at various times in a year, or usually a month, the Sumerians regarded that as the planet that crosses, because it literally crosses over the sky. As these people charted at night, you see it at various times in the year here. Because I go on and I Google on one of NASA's things on what's the brightest star in the sky, and you can see Jupiter as being the brightest star, and you can watch it traverse across the sky until the morning. That was where they got the term Sagmegar for the planet Jupiter. The Akkadians used the term Neberu, and that was the term that they used for that particular planet. So it is not a spaceship. It is not a craft that the Anunnaki piloted. York did not pilot Nibiru, as he said, he rode it to Earth. Oh. No, it was just identifying the planet Jupiter that the Akkadians wrote about.
So then the Crystal City is just the city in a Crystal City on Nibiru, which is I'm confused.
The Crystal City comes out of the Book of Revelation. I think it's 21.
Okay, so it's just a whole bunch of stuff that's mixed up.
Yeah, York had tried to offer in the publications, the latter part of the publications, in these blue Revelation books, and then he put out a book called El Injil, which a Korean sister put together, and he gave a series of commentaries on the passages of the Book of Revelation. And by the time he got down to Revelation 21 and 22, it talks about the Crystal City. And the Crystal City is supposed to be a city made of glass and finest crystals, etc. And this Crystal City is supposed to be Nibiru.
And that ain't got nothing to do with Nibiru. See, as soon as you said York, no. He just mixing up too much entirely.
Not even Sitchin did that. But York, that was one of the that was his hustle, selling books with any kind of stuff in it. And one of the things that we, at that time, because all that esoteric stuff pertaining to the Book of Revelation, because everybody, according to York, everybody was scared of the book, and no one wants to go into it. So he did these mock translations, which are not translations; they were commentaries. If you look at the book of Injil, the blue revelation that was with the it was a blue revelation book. It's called El Injil. The Revelation. It was a blue book with the letter lamb on the cover. And then that is supposed to be York's translation. And all it was just York's commentary. Just as this thick book that he sold for $50 called El Injil, it was supposed to be a translation of the book of Revelation. It's not a translation, nor is El's Torah, nor is El's Quran translations. Zabur, the Psalms, not a translation. All of them are commentaries. York was using the online Bible program, the software, the what do you call it? The Strong's Concordance. The sisters work day and night, putting words together and trying to use these forms. Their way of trying to translate it. And they just put stuff that they could type up, and then York got the credit for it and sold it as his translations. And none of them are, because everything you look in, all of them, is nothing but commentaries. York's is spin what he says it is. So in the El's Quran, he's talking about Enki and the Biru, and then the angel Jibril came to Muhammad, and he was by way of Nibiru and all this kind of nonsense.
Malarkey. He was just making shit up to make shit up.
Yeah,
he sat up and watched TV shows all day and had them girls write them books or copy and paste them books and add stuff in between. And he just added his 2 cents from what he saw from the TV shows and the movies he watched.
That's basically what all the sisters in the office had told me, and we can see that just by the way that it's written.
Yeah.
Some of the books that he spent a lot of money on, I think it was the Atrania book or something. There were some books that he had put out. A lot of them were esoteric Indian writers. Because again, you got to remember, York always told us stay away from the Hindus, stay away from Indian people. They are the original black devils, and their writings and their music, stay away from it. All the while, York was using it.
Yeah, that's why he told everybody to stay away from it, because he wants y'all to realize.
Yeah. So
they was using their stuff.
He was using their stuff and then demonizing them so that no one can go and look and see, oh, this is where you got it from.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who did do it, they got ostracized from the community.
Ezekiel said, are the Sumerian gods real or anthropomorphic?
They may have believed them to be real, but there's no documentation. There's no evidence of any of the Anuna, Igigi ever existed.
The dude had a whole bunch of folk in a bag.
No, they were just anthropomorphic deities, just like we have in other societies, like Hercules and Zeus.
Like y'all want everybody to take the Bible with a grain of salt. Y'all gonna have to take the rest of them with a grain of salt too.
So, no, there's nothing. As a matter of fact, the Anuna was so insignificant that they only lasted for a short period in Sumerian literature. The first pops up. It first comes up.
If I get this straight, the Sumerian. I say, if I get this straight, the Sumerians basically popped up somewhere they just technically shouldn't have been, and then they disappeared again.
Well, they didn't actually disappear. They just became a part of the society that took over. It was the Akkadians that took over Sumer.
Okay, so they got beat out the area, basically. Just sucked acclimated in.
Well, see, at the same time, keep this in mind. Okay, so the Akkadians had conquered the Sumerians through war, okay, under Sargon. All right, so several years later, the Gutians came down and pushed out and conquered the Akkadians. And they resided there for about 100 years. During that period, or during that reigned, there were still pockets of Sumerian societies, because they didn't just come in and kill everybody. You know, they were just, you know, an occupied land. But further down in Lagash, you had a society that really escaped a lot of that. And by the time Gudea rose to power, he took it upon himself to renovate and start building. He went on this massive building campaign, and a lot of literature came out of that period before any of the previous ruling periods. And he is accredited with having all this stuff about Anuna, because we don't find it prior to him. And that's during the third millennium.
Okay.
So
Jay,
this Anunnaki stuff is not that old.
Yeah.
in Sumerian years.
you got the next question? Hey, James, Savannah, Georgia, or the Savannah Desert? Because I've been to Georgia, Savannah. But the Savannah Desert? No.
No. I ain't been to either. Okay, so we ran through stitching. We got through the Nibiru question. And we
I got
now
a whole
know
pro.
that
I did.
Nibiru is
Matter of
not
fact,
coming.
hold on.
And there was
Go ahead.
somebody that had questions in the chat. I believe it was Tiana. You can ask in the chat, or you can come up and ask if you would like. Well, go ahead, Trump.
I did a PDF. I did a PowerPoint on this Nibiru thing.
Be right
3 years ago.
There was one question once you get past there. There was one question we didn't address.
Yeah, go ahead. Word.
How exactly did your, like, the Ansarullah community was Muslim? There wasn't a bunch of different stuff outside of Islam in that community. So how did he get to the transitions from the Native American paradigm? How did that like, how did he run that past everybody, especially those people who were like, what was his strategy?
There was no strategy. He just said it, and we accepted it.
Oh, Chuck, are you done with this link?
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit, I'm sorry.
No problem.
My fault.
Hop Crystal.
Because it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Guys in there that would be ready to fight for their belief system, but it was really more just about York, right?
Oh, but a lot of people, because he called it shaking the leaves. So some people broke off, and some formed their own little thing, and some people just lived in complete confusion. So he went, and here's what's important, you got to know. That Native American stuff started before he started talking about Sumer. Because in upstate, that was when he started making that transition. After he left from Brooklyn and resided in the Catskills, that's when they started pushing the whole Native American thing as being akin to Ben York. And they were,
so that's like mid-80s, late 80s.
1990.
Oh, okay. Straight up 90.
It was because he pushed the narrative of kin to Ben York, the Shoshone Nubian tribes. And the image that he used, or the logo, was a white buffalo with a Plains Native American called, and he referred to him as Shoshone. But I don't, for some reason, it didn't stick. So it wasn't until he resided in Georgia around 94, 95, that he then started referring to us as being part of the Yamasee, Creek, Seminole Native Americans.
And both of those organizations are still in existence right now, right?
Say again?
The organizations, the quote unquote tribes, are both in operation today. Like there are people who are operating as Shoshones as well as Yamasis today, right?
Being bad.
There, well, definitely Shoshone. The people who there's a group of people who call themselves Yamasi that filed a lawsuit against York for defamation of their name and their culture. That was it. Yeah, I found it in a news article in Georgia. They filed a lawsuit against him, cease and desist letter, something to that effect. And then there are some black folk who broke off from the Nuwapians and formed their own thing and categorizes themselves as being Yamasee Native Americans, the original black tribes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've come across now one thing. Now is that now the Yamasi stuff is at the point when they started having dealings with the Washita, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact,
that's the early 90s.
When he started dealing with Verdadachi, the Empress.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to go in and check which mic you're using.
Who, me?
No, Ty. She just popped up on the panel.
So
I'm here. I just didn't want to interrupt yet.
Okay.
No.
So
yeah, Verdadachi, she kind of well, not her directly, but because the Nuwapians were attending some of her lectures and some of the guests that she would bring at their little venues. One of them being what's that? The former neo-Nazi that wrote a series of books.
The one that
Joseph.
got polite charges.
Frank Joseph.
Frank Joseph, right?
Yes.
Crystal.
Yeah, the guy that got convicted of child molestation of boys within the neo-Nazi movement. They kicked him out.
Yeah.
Him. So there was a sister from out of Philadelphia that York paraded as being a Native American, calling her Sacagawea. And she was a little girl from out of Philly. We're cool today. She's a real cool sister. And she gave me a lot of information on, because I remember them having, going to Verdadachi, and then there was some kind of fallout between them. And then York started doing his own thing, but still incorporating Frank Joseph's stuff, Return of the Ancient Ones or Return of the Moors or something to that effect. Because York's
I believe it's Return of the Ancient Ones.
Yes, the Mugaraj ceremony and the way that York had the Black Pyramid constructed was based on the layout from Frank Joseph's rendition of what he claimed Atlantis looked like. I still haven't finished that article, but I have the video of Frank talking about that, and he'll show the illustration of Atlantis and what it looked like. And then York in the Al-Mugaraj ceremony, or the alignment thing, the Black Pyramid, the way that it's constructed, the circle and the square, all that, the way that Frank has it established in his book is what York had borrowed and had it constructed, the layout for the Black Pyramid.
Okay, did you see Ezekiel's question? I tacked it up on the screen.
What was it?
I tacked it up on the screen. Stitching claims.
I can't even see. I got this private in the way.
Stitching claim that Shem or Sham in Baruch Hashem Hebrew was mistranslation for spaceships.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
Bogus.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, can you hold it down for a second while I take Crystal out, because she finna do something dumb.
Oh yeah, save Crystal. Go ahead, I got you.
Michael Heiser, he debunked that by himself on just that alone, dealing with the Hebrew on that. So,
all right, Sister T, you on?
Yes, I'm here. How are you guys this evening?
Hello.
I'm well.
That's good. So I'm new to the treehouse, so thank you so much for having me. I have a friend here in the audience, Mr. Octavius, and per a conversation we had, he said you were the guy to talk to about York. And I just want to know, based on what I'm hearing tonight, before I get into the conversation I had with Octavius, do you find anything out of his teachings to be, how to say this? Like, okay, I guess I'll start over. In our community as Black people, and I kind of hate using that word Black, we are already so disconnected, unorganized, and in competition or at odds with each other. My question is, do you find anything that he sought to teach helpful to bring us together as a people? As like one question, only because I just feel like through
I
my
get you.
experiences, there's not many people out here who are bringing us together. It's so much divide and conquer mentality,
Right.
and I just want to know, like,
Yeah.
what do
I
you
know.
think?
I know exactly what you're saying. And yeah, yes, they were. Listen, had York not done some of the things that he did to other people, he did lay out some very good principles within the organization, stuff that he didn't necessarily follow himself, but the family guidebooks, dietary laws, his lectures and stories about unity and coming together as a people, setting aside differences of theologies, and because we are in this thing together, all of that stuff, you have to give him credit where credit is due. I mean, it's true then and it's true now. So yes, there were some things that York taught that were inspirational, that were positive, that could be utilized depending on the individual, that would have been empowering, having us become independent entrepreneurs, you know, business people. If some of us would have maintained it and elevated beyond it without having to be under the thumb of the organization, who knows where a lot of us would have gone in terms of being business minded. He released a book called Gold Diggers many years ago. It wasn't sold as like regular books that you would see in his publication. It was more centered around, the psychology on relationships and some of the things pertaining to business. Even the audio that he had plagiarized from Earl Nightingale. Nevertheless, of the plagiarism, it is what it is. But for him to at least take the position of trying to put it out to us at the time of how to be successful, that was what he had tried to do, at least at that time, as Imam Isa, in plagiarizing Nightingale's works and not giving credit to him. Aside from that, the message that Nightingale was given and retold by York wasn't empowering. It was inspirational. And I can't take that from him. So yeah, there were some positive things that has been used and could have been used depending on the person who was able to use it. Unfortunately, in a lot of the cases, he didn't follow his own manual, but if some of the people who use some of it, yeah, it might have been more successful than they are now. In fact, some people still are. Some people have businesses,
Okay, Chuck, there's one more question from Ezekiel.
Mhm.
He's asking about Sacagawea. I'm
Yeah,
assuming the Sacagawea that he's talking about is the one that was with York.
yeah.
He wanted to know if she was black or was she dark skinned?
She was just a light-skinned girl from out of Philadelphia. She was partly. Last I talked to her, I think she said she got some Hispanic blood in her a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, real good girl. Yeah, I'm not gonna mention her name because she asked me not to ever mention her name, but she supported everything I do. But just don't put her name out there.
Hey, gotta respect
So
that.
each one of them that asks that, I do not.
Hey, gotta respect that.
Yeah.
But well, yeah, I mean, basically, it was just she was part of York's show.
Yes. Matter of fact, when you look at, you probably remember her. She always wore the 2 braids, had the choker, you know, had the whole outfit.
Oh, and they got a bunch of pictures of her, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
You see
I
her.
know who you talking about.
Ezekiel said the original Sacagawea.
Oh, the original Sacagawea.
Okay, now we're talking. Now we're talking about something else.
The Powhatan Indians.
The original Sacagawea, the lady that got the coin. Was she dark skinned or was she?
Okay, now he's talking about where York says that she and Ben York got together, and Ben York is his.
Sacagawea, that Lord Jesus, you know what? I can't. I'm put myself back on mute. Things that want to come out my mouth right now, I can't because
I would say that when people ask that question, I think the better question to ask is, what people really want to get at is, was she a white woman? And no, she was not.
Oh,
Native Americans have not now, nor have they ever been Caucasian.
Right, right, and no. I think you're talking about Pocahontas.
Ty's still here. Oh, she in the back. Hold on, I just came back from walking the dog.
I don't know that much about her because I didn't really study up on her.
Native American history.
So I couldn't tell you exactly what her ethnicity was.
We came up here about the Sumerians tonight.
I think there's some images of her and she just looks beige.
So I don't know.
Y'all see Chuck up here and just want to ask him all y'all burning questions. That's not how it really works. Y'all can only pick Chuck's brain for the stuff that Chuck knows.
I thought we were still in the line of Frank Joseph stuff. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think, she's back. She's back.
I'm sorry, my call thingy messed up because I'm working from my phone.
Everybody, if you on the phone, you gonna drop a time or two. Don't worry, we used to it. I just had to come back up because I had to take the crook dog out because she acting like a nut tonight. You have to excuse Crystal. She part of the treehouse too, and she ain't got them all. I'm the only one with the keys to the car. Well, go ahead and ask next question, babe.
Okay, so I heard what you said, and in response to that, why has no one picked up the baton and continued? And what I mean by that is, I watched this documentary about it, and it talked about the accusations behind his imprisonment and whatnot. And I personally, if he did it, he did it. If he didn't, then that's another conversation.
Let me stop you right there. No. One thing we don't do on this channel, Malachi Z. York was convicted, and he is serving a 135-year prison sentence. There is no if he did anything.
Yeah, Trip. Let me field this question so you don't spaz out on sister.
Go ahead.
All right. The answer to that question is there is no need whatsoever for anyone to carry on Malachi York's baton. They need to form an organization to take the things that Malachi Z. York brought that were positive and implement them. You understand? The things that were positive are positive because they're positive things. And what we tend to do is fixate ourselves on the negative. We trauma bond with each other about what happened, the abuses that we faced in this country. We trauma bond about perceived abuses that happened historically. We focus on the negative aspects of our behavior while we do not seek to change them. Those are the things that we need to focus on. The doctrines, they're at best, the doctrines are just transmitters for the good behaviors and practices that everyone has the ability to partake in without wearing a costume. So there's no reason that anyone has to pick. We can say Malachi York, he wasn't a totally bad guy, but there's no reason for anyone to pick up the torch and carry it anywhere.
I follow what you mean. I guess maybe I should reword it and ask for, I guess, what he presumed was intended on doing. As I mentioned earlier, the collectiveness within, I guess, the culture of Black people here in America. Out of the people who were there, as far as like the land, obtaining land to, I don't want to say separate or isolate ourselves, but I'm just curious to know, for the people who were present and got good things out of whatever occurred or what they learned. My question is, not necessarily where are those people now, but I mean, there are no Black communities. You know, we talk about Black Wall Streets. We talk about the Black Wall Streets in North Carolina, Tulsa, some of the known ones. And it seemed like what was going on in Georgia was like a modern day version of it, even though there was negativity associated with it. My question is more so the people who
I don't
got
think that
something
you really
positive
understand.
from it
Yeah,
is
I
are
don't think you
things.
really understand what was happening in Georgia to make that assessment. What Malachi York did in Georgia was not like a Black Wall Street.
Right.
What Malachi York, what that land was his ability to, and if you go back to a tape, you can find this on YouTube. If you type in Malachi Z York, why I chose Islam, or why we chose Islam,
Why we use
he
this
goes
one?
into why he separated people. And he separated people because that was part of his pathology and as part of his scam, as well as part of
Okay.
his intended abuse.
Can
I
I
So
got
ask
something
this?
to
when
say.
you say separate
just let me
people,
finish. Just let me finish.
I got
Just let me
something to
finish.
say. We doing this backwards. Okay. We at the point where we've gotten past the questions that you asking, but the videos are still up.
Okay, that's right.
And the videos are still up. The discussion is still up because it's not just somebody telling you what you want to hear. It's just like this setup right here. You can listen like that and build up on it. And then because it's gonna answer some of your questions.
Yeah, you're gonna change
Because
a lot of your
I've been
opinions if
over
you
this. That's
actually
why
get the
I'm reacting so
information.
hard. I've been over this so many times that I'm not. I can't take it easy at this point no more. And they've been poking at me for the past 2-3 days. So, but if you go back, all of these are labeled in some way with Malachi Z York for the past 5 years. If you watch these, you will get all your questions answered. There's some with Chuck. There's some with Tarnunan. Tariq Noel's on here. Farouk. Mike. Oh, you about somebody
If you
else?
go to my
If you go to Chuck's channel, they all on there as well.
yeah, we did.
okay,
Oh, let me say this to you, and I appreciate your question. Over the years, we did a number of videos, hours, 8 hours, 5 hours. Ugh. I don't know how we lived through it, but we've tried to cover every aspect, every facet of the York story in relation to the community. That if you go to my channel,
Ezekiel just dropped the link.
my YouTube channel, or if you can pull it up, I don't even know what the name of it. But if you
Chuck
go to it,
Morgan.
yeah, him. You got a whole bunch of you can pick from them, and if you take the time
Yeah,
to
and
just
I've
hear them out
re-uploaded a lot of
from
it recently as
from
well.
those of us that were there, some of the people who were victimized, who can give you the
Vote by
day-to-day
vote.
living, from their perspective on what took place.
Here you
But let
go.
me say this before I just want to clear something up. I understand the part about the Black Wall Street. That is completely, totally separate from York. York's thing was purely all about himself. The land was not built for us. It was built for him. It was a business, everything. He wanted to have everything on there be used as some way to generate revenue for him. He did not share it. He did not share it with anyone. There
They
were
was
no
starving.
successors because it was all about him, because he never thought that he would ever get arrested. So
it's like somebody telling you they gonna take you to see Willy Wonka without telling you the part about it's a movie set.
Right. And
that's
and
one way of looking at
also
it.
there's a danger, and I think I understand what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go. Um,
That may last
perhaps it's a good idea for people to get out and buy land if you're in a situation that you can do that. But you don't need to coerce people to buy land by showing them, like, look at this guy, he did it, you should do it too. That's not the right methodology, and it's not going to attract the right people to create the community that you want to build. When people built Black Wall Street, it's because the people who moved there saw a need to do whatever they were doing. They had a skill to do what they were doing, and that's what you want to attract when you talk about this land stuff that people talk about. It's not really just go buy land and then we're going to be free. It doesn't work like that, and it never will.
Real fast. So the people who came down to build the land, we worked almost like slaves, because the sisters, they worked sun up, sun down, deprived of food, education, because he took them out of schools and had them working day and night all around the clock, typing up stuff to make more sales. There was no exit strategy other than York becoming more and more wealthy, and he never shared that wealth with anyone. The sisters were separate from their boyfriends or husbands. Children were segregated from their parents, usually in York's care, where a lot of the stuff took place. That was not an ideal living condition. It wasn't even necessary. The land, well, it was 476 acres of land, and he built on 19 acres. The rest of it was all his, and we were not allowed to.
It was pasture land. He could have easily built on all of that because it was just flat.
It was
but Chuck, let me confirm something with you.
Yes.
The playground, because I think Mike confirmed it, or it might have been Tariq, but the playground was across the street across the little dirt road from York's house, right?
The playground?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean like where the
Tamaray, before the Tamarade.
There was a little playground area, like a little,
and that was right across from York's house.
Yeah.
The front of York's house.
His little Neverland ranch.
Yeah, but he had a perfect view to look just dead out at the children.
Yeah, but then at the same time, he was always doing that, because
that's what I'm saying. He said
that was separate.
He set it up so that he could do what he wanted, and couldn't nobody really see nothing or say nothing, because that part was separate. They stopped you from going up there. That's where the roads connected.
At 9 o'clock, if you're on the land, you got to go. That was it. Because people who may come up there after the Black Pyramid was built and started having these religious ceremonies, blah, blah. If you were having your religious ceremony, sometimes they would have to interrupt you and say, bro, you're going to have to go. We're closed.
Oh yeah, and Chuck, this part has nothing to do with your time. But I've been hearing this very disturbing stuff they've been saying about Mark Lamont, and I know Mark Lamont Hill didn't say he saw some freaky deaky going on. He said he went into Club Ramses or whatever and saw the kids roller skating, right?
Okay.
Something like that. And now they saying that he had to see some deviant, and he saw somebody doing something to one of his friends. And I don't understand how this is getting so out of control and ridiculous.
I remember him on Sonetta where he was saying that he saw something in one of the, I think it was the Zimmer. The Zimmer is this little like minibus that York had that some of the sex acts took place. I think he said he went in there. He didn't say actually saw. He didn't actually see it, but he said that he felt an uneasiness because the young brother that was in there and the sister that was there, it's like, what are you doing here? He was one of them kind of weird atmospheres, but he suspected something. But last I talked to him, he said he never said that he actually saw anyone get penetrated.
Yeah, because that's what they floating around YouTube. Now, I just can't get how they take a story and
that was done by Nuwapians. They pushed that to try to.
You know why they do that?
To try to conflate situations so nobody will believe it.
Well, that, and then if you create a witch hunt, then guilty parties can hide while innocent parties get crucified.
Mm-hmm.
You could also you could also cast aspersions on certain information, so that if there are people who may come out and speak in the future, they're deterred to do that, because then it's like whatever you said, then we can twist it to make you guilty.
Yeah.
So it's just very dangerous,
Yeah.
the stuff that we do with YouTube, and it gets back
Yeah.
into that, like when
Yeah.
when we
YouTube is.
we were strong as individuals getting together, and right now what Black nationalism has degenerated through Black national declination microwave is we've gotten to this place where we're looking to gain the strength from the group, as opposed to adding our strength as individuals to the group. Does that make sense?
That makes
Mm,
sense. I think that and what I had laid out in regards to those positive things that York said, or whatever, I'm trying to emphasize the fact that he didn't live up to it. It's almost as if all of that was done to sell videos and CDs, because he could get the crowd hyped and say all the stuff that we want to hear with all
he
the
sold
theatrics that
people
go
a
with it.
dream that he had. He
Yeah,
sold people intention that he had no intention of fulfilling. Let's just
exactly.
put it
That's the
that
best
way.
way to say it. That's the best way to say it. Because when we were told that when you move, see, there was two types. You were the supporters who lived on the outside, who will come and buy books or go to some of the functions. Those are the people who were your clients. Those are the people who give you got money. If a book come out, anything that's associated, you won't buy it. That's who you go to first. Then there are the people who want to go a step further and say, I want to be a part of this thing from the inside. So then you were asked to move into the community. And when you moved into the community, you had to abide by certain rules. And one of those rules was that you no longer worked in the dunya, which is the world. You had to take the products that are given to you and go out in the streets and make it happen. And you had a quota of $100 a day, depending on what city you're in. But usually, all the major cities, DC, New York, Philly, all these places, you had $100 quota. And if you failed to give that quota, you had the penalty of staying on guard all day. The winner, of course, who were able to turn in the most money, you got the luxury of spending a night in a room with your girlfriend as your reward. So it was a nice talking point, but it wasn't anything that he himself lived up to. Um, he
While
put it
everybody
out
else
there.
was
He
eating
put it,
rice and peas, he was going out to eat and taking his preferreds to dinner and
yeah,
movies.
yeah. Certain individuals who were in part of his little inner circle, as long as they put out, they got little gifts from
And he would
rings,
starve them until they put out.
and the other ones lived in poverty, because when you were on Tamaray, the land looked attractive from the outside, but on the inside, it was all like a third world country. The men lived in a barn,
What about
while
me?
your
At one
girl is over
point,
there, while your woman is over there living with a bunch of other mean girls who don't want her around because she may
in a
be
busted
prettier. New
trailer,
York might want to be with her that night because all of them are fighting to have sex with him.
just so they don't have
Meanwhile,
to sleep in the
you
place where the
the
showers
men
are going out.
the men don't go out to work when you live on the property. All you do is you build all day long. You dig, you clean trash, you do whatever he says wants done on the property. That's what you do. After you're done, at the end of the day, you go back to a barn that's hot, humid, and you're around about 20 to 30 to 40 other men who may not want to bathe because the showers weren't working a lot of the times. Same thing for upstate. The women had to take hose, stockings. They had to take stockings and wrap a napkin in it and use it as a when they go on their period. That's what they use because they couldn't get the office to get York to give them money so the sisters can get sanitary napkins. Why? He's a multimillionaire and he made his money off of the people. So he wasn't sharing the wealth. It wasn't about you or me. It was all about him. Even
He
some of his
would
kids
make
never
the
got
money to become a multimillionaire to do the stuff that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he just discarded the people along the way.
Yeah, you were expendable. And I was only in his good grace as long as I was necessary. As long as I was doing something, because I did talk radio, as long as I was doing those shows, arguing with Christians and Muslims and trying to attack celebrities on different shows, as long as I'm doing that, and then I send the audios down, then he mass produces them and then sells them more money, I'm good. So he'll give me my reward will be some mouth to ear information, some books I can proofread. I come down, I get to hang out, with the in crowd of the brothers who are.
Did you get a key to a Cadillac?
Huh?
I said, did you get a key to a Cadillac? Was you part of the Cadillac Club?
No, I'm part of the Seville Club. No. No. Brother in DC
told me to make sure I ask you the next time you came up.
The brother who ran the DC community, Mental Hotep, he was a part of the Seville Club, and he had an emerald green Seville. And all of those cars were really just some old beat up junk that you drive up there to look good, and all the cars parked on the land to make it look like it was something significant. Meanwhile, and I rode in that green Seville. All it had in it was some cluttered porno magazines and some food in between the seats. It was a mess.
I'm so glad I remembered to ask this question when Mitch rewatched this. He go holler.
What?
Mitch had told me to make sure you Mitch.
Oh yeah.
Make sure the next time I talk to you, ask you about the Cadillac Club.
Yeah, it was called the Seville Club. All cars were Sevilles. Yeah. Yeah, that was some. I don't know why he even did that, but the brothers was loving it. It was,
before it was Pickle Man, now it's the Seville Club.
Yeah. So I hate to disappoint you on that, but it was just a facade. It was all for show. It was all for show.
No disappointment. And I say thank you for answering those questions.
I really appreciate
new on this platform, but I will definitely take heed and go watch some of the other videos that you have.
I'm sorry for kind of halfway snapping on you.
No, it's okay.
Hard 48 hours.
It's okay.
It's been hard.
I tried to save
it's okay.
You, sis.
It was a good invite from a friend. We had a conversation about a recent clip that I had seen. Not even really a clip. It was like an hour documentary on YouTube. And I was talking to him about it, and he suggested to ask the questions to you. So I thank you for the clarity, and thank you guys for allowing me up to ask the questions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, you guys have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Do you have anything else?
I'm gonna go back to the audience.
Stay up. I mean, you're free to ask.
No, I'm learning. I am right now. I'm interested in everything that's being said, and I ask those questions. So I'm gonna lead the little panel here, and I'm gonna go back down into the audience and continue to listen.
To start off with, because if you jump straight into Chuck's, your hair gonna turn gray, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, what did I do?" If you want to start off at the beginning level, you want to start off on mine.
It's not even an order to it. I guess if you see a title, you find it. If you see a title,
this is what you do.
Just click on it.
Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to both of the channels, and then your notifications and your suggestions.
Yeah.
The algorithm will pull you in.
You could just turn from newest to oldest to oldest to newest. And as soon as about 5 years ago, as soon as you see Chuck, just start there and you'll see Closed Circle Conversations. It's always some kind of special title. Because most of mine are titled.
Or if you want, if you go to the channel, just type if you have a question, just type a message in there. I get the message every day. I respond to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
We both do.
Cool.
Okay. Yes. I believe I'm following the treehouse. But how do I find you?
Soliloquy message. About how
Could you put the YouTube channel up in there?
I put it in this chat.
Okay.
It's still showing. He wrote this
Yeah.
long
And plus
soliloquial message
I'm on
about how
Facebook,
he
so-
wrote a book and it had you in it and he exposed you. And I'm like, why does everybody think that I just listen? Did I just listen to people whispering in my ear? Why don't they think I do independent research? I'm a whole IT. We nosy as fuck.
They called me one of your students the other day.
Oh my God.
They were like, "Oh, I should have known you were one of Chuck Morgan's students."
Chuck Morgan. I could be called way worse things. Lord knows.
Hey, I see it as an honor.
I was like, thank you, but I was like, thank you. But you know what I'm saying?
I don't have no students, man. I don't want students. I don't know
if that's an insult.
That's the best teacher to have, the one that's trying to run his students off. I don't want to teach y'all nothing. Go on. Well, if y'all just gotta be here, go ahead and move that box while you over there.
Okay, so can I make sure I have the right link? Oh,
it's the one that says the brown Cherokee.
Okay, perfect. That's the one I have. And then it's another one posted by Mr. Perez. Is that one I should look into as well, or is that something different?
What that is? It's probably something that you want to watch, but let me see what it is so I can tell you what it is.
Okay, thank you.
It's a blank link. He probably hit the wrong thing because it looked like it was trying to go to content creator. Cupcake said, "What was the book name that you read?" I think she said she watched the hour-long documentary.
Yes, it was. Hold on, I'm finna tell you what it was called. Bear with me.
The link was broken, Ezekiel. You might have copied it wrong.
Oh, and also I have a Facebook group.
Okay.
Discussion group.
It was called Mysteries Behind Closed Doors, the Dr. Malachi Z York case, and then it says the Untold Story. But it was about an hour long.
If it's one of them little murder mystery channels, be careful of those.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It looks like it was something. I don't know if he had a publication or a company, but it looked like it was something put together by somebody that may have been within the organization. Would you like me to post
it's a whole lot of stuff flowing around on YouTube on smaller channels about yours.
Yeah, that was from the organization and trying to what's the word they use?
Ezekiel said that was a Nuwapian production.
They were trying to save the public image of York. So ever since then we've because a lot of that stuff is most of what's in that video had long been debunked back in 2004, 5, and 6. So they had a tendency to constantly ignore all the stuff against what they were saying because they're still trying to save his public image, something he even wanted to do, save his public image. So all that stuff has been debunked. And if you just go through either the website or the videos, you'll see it in real time how, 99.9% of the stuff that you're saying has been proven false.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will definitely follow.
Take your time. And if you have questions, by all means,
Jaden, you shot all the way out.
I was just listening to Chuck talk, and then I was just thinking about how a dream deferred is a raisin in the sun. And then I started thinking about Raisin Bran. I don't know. My brain just does weird things sometimes.
Okay. No, I saw the thing in the middle, serving dreams deferred. It was trying not to holler.
Yeah. So, I hope you with an open mind, stay it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's
don't fall into that portal.
It's very easy to believe that all of these guys were set up, right? But the only conspiracy that I think actually pans out was the conspiracy to assassinate Martin Luther King that was carried out by the KKK. They killed Medgar Evers, and that was a conspiracy. And then, the deaths of certain key members of the Black Panther Party. But there wasn't any setup with York.
No, of course not.
None whatsoever.
No. I mean,
the one that we read, Cupcake, Yeah, that one was ungodly. And then we still have Huru to read, and then we got Dancing with the Devil or whatever it's called, that P Diddy book. My voice just ain't been on point. I gotta go to the other market and get that other tea. Cause this tea at the regular market ain't strong enough. Any more questions, Jaded? Or did you run down the
I
whole
think I think
repertoire?
I think I think we got to the end of the question.
Okay.
Chuck answered a lot of the questions like straight
Now you,
away. It was
now you have
amazing.
ammunition. Pew pew pew.
He's a well polished machine when it comes to this.
Yes.
I spent how many years in that stuff? I came in at 89, stayed with it up until he got incarcerated in 2004. Yeah. And stayed with it until 2011.
Well, I mean, it's gotta help. That's like a prosecutor that turn around and become a defense attorney. You know, it's kind of like you have an edge.
Yeah. You know where to look for things.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know what the tricks are gonna be. You know what they're gonna try to stumble you up at.
But here's for anybody who comes across any of these different platforms or any of these different individuals who are still pushing this conspiracy narrative, right? Here's a test. Go to nuwapianism.com and just cherry pick an article and send that to that individual and see how they respond.
They gonna tell you Chuck Morgan is no, you ain't even gotta do all that. Just ask them about Chuck Morgan. They gonna tell you he an agent. Watch what I say.
No. Because when you post the article, right? They start to shrivel up, like it's almost like when they pour water on the witch from Wizard of Oz. Like they disappear. They be like, "You're a student of Chuck Morgan. It's kind of fun to watch.
Nothing. No.
Curse him.
Like,
I need to go back. I need to go back
up.
New Wap. Put
It's
your avatar up and just pop up in people's chats, and they get up. They're all happy. Just kill all their little hopes and dreams.
Shit.
Yo, my man looked like Music Soul Child a little bit. Or what's the other dude?
Well, I'm not surprised because he a whole answer.
He looked kind of like if Raekwon and Music Soul Child were merged
and became one
in the Fly Machine. But I can't. I wanted to remember his name because I feel like he might be behind one of these platforms because the way that he was responding to some of this stuff. And he came on. He approached as if he was like an authority. And then I was like, "But you don't even know anything." I asked him about Pickle Man, and he was like dumbfounded.
What's that? Pickle Man.
He was like, Pickle Man. He was like, "Oh, the
I go
that we
dead
taught." I was like, "But the
I ain't got
was
time to play with them folk." Leo, we gonna go down to the real brass tacks.
Yeah, like I go right to the bugged out stuff. I go immediately to it.
No, I'm still waiting for them to answer the question on how a bird mated with a rat to produce the bat.
That was molestation.
I'm trying to get the answer to that. They still ain't answered that article yet.
Bats don't got
I'm gonna keep up with
How
it.
they gonna extradite him when he got a birth certificate from the States, Ezekiel? It don't matter how many lies you tell if you can't back them up.
It's like at some point you gotta feel like
that Negro was born in what, Maryland, Massachusetts. At some point, you gotta let the lie go. You know, my mama used to say, they gonna lie till they die. He is gonna lie till he keel over looking out that window.
Remember the news article from Georgia?
Ezekiel, are you secretly rooting for your? Because sometimes I think so, baby.
Remember the television spot, the news spot from Georgia?
Yeah.
And then they started asking him about the doctrine, and as soon as my man said that York was from space, he was like, "What? It's not weird." Like you gotta feel like that every time you say something.
I'm
Yeah,
just
that
making
dude-
sure. Times
That
is
dude
weird
got
right now,
trouble
baby.
for that. He got in a lot of trouble for that interview.
Oh,
Man.
the dude that got interviewed?
Yeah, he was living in a barn, but he no longer lived there.
Where they put it? Like, where else can you
They
go?
kicked
Where's
his
the
butt
punishment
out.
from the
Read
bar?
between the lines. They beat him up and kicked him out more than likely.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
I don't know if they beat him up, but he was the one that brought the sheriff. Well, that other dude that was talking about it's a dance club. That was when the sheriff started.
Oh,
coming
he
down.
walked him in that dance club, and they knew that it was the. Oh.
Yep. They're looking at it. Said now the zoning commissioner is looking at it. He said, "Well, wait a minute. This is a silo for storage. Why is it a club? You got a drinks. You got a dance floor, a lecture hall.
Ain't got a liquor license
bar,
in
no
sight.
liquor license.
No liquor license, but you're selling alcohol. What is this?
Even if they is casinos. Had the club packed, had the highway packed.
Had celebrities. Blue Magic. Was it Joe Texas son?
Oh man.
Hey Ezekiel, I was just messing with you a little bit.
Left Eye Lopez.
Y'all like figured out I'm twisted by now. I don't know what to do with
Left Eye
y'all.
was a Yorkie, and that's how she got with Sabi.
Exactly.
Badang. My conspiracy theory is right about Left Eye, right? Left Eye realized that she really wasn't healed, and then she had an accident. That's my conspiracy theory.
Really like
you is shot out. Okay, if there are no more serious questions for Chuck,
that's about it.
Excuse me.
Now I can finally go to sleep. I gotta work tonight.
Because I know you was tired. Chuck woke up like the interview. I said, Chuck, it ain't even
I only
time.
had 30 minutes of sleep because I've been up all night.
Yeah, so we gonna go ahead and let you go so you can get some Z's in before you gotta get up and go to work.
All right, brother. It's great talking to you.
Jaded, you stay. We gonna end this one and we'll be back in them. Well, I'm gonna have to boot you out.
And the shirt says Dubsar.
Oh, that's fire.
Yeah, Dub is a word for a tablet or a text, and Sar is the writer.
Huh.
So a tablet writer is a scribe. So because I do the writing on the Nawapian site, I just.
And thank you for coming and giving us a glimpse of your new work, Chuck.
Huh?
I said thank you for coming and giving us a glimpse of your new work.
Oh yeah, yes. This is my thing.
Yes.
Yeah, this is my thing, man. And like I said, you can critique Sitchin and York and all those little offshoots that develop from them and showing you don't know what they're talking about. No, but I do it for fun, so that's all. That's all I get out of it. Just enjoy it. Matter of fact, I just got these 2 books, right? These joints cost $300.
Whoa!
I got them. It's the etymological dictionary of Sumerian language, semantic analysis.
Now, see, I'm a bibliophile, but I'll be content with the PDF version if I can get it for cheaper.
I hope it don't come on PDF. I feel like I wasted money.
That's right. Thank you for coming up and asking questions, Tiana. I don't know why I'm sitting up here. All I saw was a Y, and my brain just put the rest of the letters in.
Make sure you subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And check out.
I think she already did a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact. But we're gonna close this one out for here. Just stay around and refresh. Thank you so much for coming. We are going to be back in a few minutes. Just give me time for this video to process, and then I'll be able to restart the stream. Jaded, you're gonna have to jump back up after it does that because this was an event.
Started off slow.
Yep. And this is Trip C's. This is Trip C's Treehouse, where it's always swinging, and we're out. I still get tied up on that old